Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
In motion, Jermaine Burton goes to the far side of the formation. Here now the inside give, no. Nuro keeps it. He'll go down the left side. He gets the perimeter and he takes it in for a touchdown.
Kevin Wimsatt gets the snap. He's going to take off. Now he fakes a run, throws a pass, and it is incomplete. Broken up, and it's intercepted by Ohio State's Hancock. Brings it up the left side to the 30. Gets all the way to the 50-yard line. Hancock to the Rutgers 40. Hancock to the 30. He's going to take it to the house. Jordan Hancock on a pick six.
Takes a snap. Handoff. Dylan Johnson. And big hole in the middle. The 40. The 30. He's going all the way. Dylan Johnson 20. 10. Dives for the pylon. Waiting for the signal. 2 arms up. Touchdown. Dylan Johnson.
Bean rushes to the right. Plants, fires. Wide open. Lawrence Arnold. He's got it in midfield. He's going to be gone. 35-30. 25-20. 15-10-5. Touchdown, Kansas. 80 yards to the house.
A bunch set to the right. Pistol look. Emmett Johnson in the back. They turn. Heinrich keeps it himself off the left edge. He goes in. Touchdown, Nebraska. Same play. Heinrich keeps it. Scores.
Obviously very disappointed in the result today. A lot of credit goes to Michigan State. They battled. They fought. They're a team that has lost these games this year in the fourth quarter, and they found a way to win it. And that's a credit to them.
Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on a Monday. I'm Ravi Lulla with Andrew Rogers. We've got Shane Schilberg with us as well, doing his producing thing over there.
What's he picking fruit? Producing?
Yeah, producing. No, that's a little different. That's the farmers. That's why we had daylight savings time.
Oh, right.
So he's
that's why Brock Purdy was on the field, like in the combine on the field.
Exactly. It's harvest,
It's harvest season. It's his bye week, so he had to get it done.
Listen, he's like one of those guys in the 50s that had to work a side job when they were playing professional football.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't get paid enough.
No, well, he's actually like the lowest paid QB in the league. So,
which is what, 14 million?
I think it's 800,000 somewhere in there.
Yep.
So not bad. Still doing okay. I think he'll be
he's
all
doing
right.
just fine.
I think he'll be all right. We are live with you here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, as well as Twitter and YouTube. You can stream us there if you'd like to see our bright and shining faces. Andrew with his Omaha hat.
Yeah, you got it.
I've got a T-shirt with that logo on it. I love that logo.
Yeah, this is the one from the same pop-up shop at the College World Series that you got your Griffey hat from.
Yeah, baseballism.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, terrific.
Yeah, the one that you and Chafe were bonding over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love baseballism. Good stuff that we need. Let's get them sponsored. Come on.
Baseballism.
It's you heard.
You guys are on the road right now. You can hear us.
I know you're listening.
They're streaming.
Let's get out here and get some sponsors going. Joining us on the show today, we've got our usual 8 a.m. on a Monday, Sam McKewon. There's obviously
I'm sure he has a lot
to talk about with the Nebraska football game. Special guest this morning, Mike Sauter is going to join us at 8:45 for a couple reasons. Number one,
is he considered a special guest?
Well, it's special on a Monday. Right?
Is it
normally? I think it's special. I'm excited to have him. We've got a couple topics we want to talk about with Sauter. Number one, Nebraska basketball starts off tonight. College basketball in general tips off tonight, but Nebraska tips off tonight.
I'll be
tomorrow.
There. Courtesy of Michael.
Arms wide open. With
arms
arms wide open.
Some tickets.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go say hi to Andrew Rogers out there at
Go Lions.
Go to see his alma mater, Lindenwood.
They are 21-point dogs.
I want to say I'm surprised it's not more.
And rightfully so.
Lindenwood up to no good.
Yeah, that's it.
So we're going to talk Sauter about that. The other thing is some news over the weekend that Sauter broke was the retirement of longtime Miller North football coach Fred Petito. He had been at the school for 41 years. Well, he'd been at the school since it opened. So 43 years ago. Is
that a long time?
It is a very long time. He is the only – they had a different head coach for a year or two, and he has been the head coach since then. So basically the only head coach that school has ever known is Fred Petito for the last 41 years, 279 wins, 5 state titles. One of the best.
Is that good?
That's pretty good. One of the best to ever do it at the high school level here in Nebraska. So we'll talk to Sauter about kind of Petito's legacy as well as What do you think is next for Miller North? That's, I think a really good job. They've obviously had a ton of history of success, and it's a place where they're very eager to succeed. So I don't think support will be an issue. So I'm curious to see what the field of candidates is going to look like for that job, because I think it's one of the better jobs to come open since Westside did a couple years ago, and Lamanji took over. So that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, the high school coaching carousel is always
it
always sparks my curiosity.
Well,
I wonder like how similar it is to a different coaching job at a different level, or if it's as simple as, oh, well, you're at the school right now, so you'll work, or, oh, you were a successful DC or OC at a different school. Like, is that how that goes?
I mean, I think at a school like Miller North, I expect it to be mostly current head coaches applying for that job. I don't think they're going to take a lot of chances.
But, like, do you jump from B to A? Like,
I mean, sometimes
is this how it works?
Sometimes you'll jump from like a B to an A. Sometimes you'll move from like it. There's, just off the top of my head, a guy like Brandon Cool out at Kearney. You know, if he wants to move to Omaha, like if he wants his family to be in Omaha as opposed to Kearney, if he wants to, you know, be in a situation where it's easier to succeed more consistently. To me, that's the type of guys that I look at for jobs like this is, okay, who are guys that are doing a really good job at a place that it's a little bit harder? Right. So anywhere outside of the metro, it's a little bit harder to be successful because you have a smaller pool of kids to pull from.
Would you freak out if it's Eric Crouch?
I mean, I don't think he has any interest in coaching, but we love EC. EC's great, you know. But I don't think I don't think he's ever coached at any level, any like real level. He might have done like some youth stuff, but
I'm sure people would be okay with it though.
I think they'd figure it out. You know, but there's, you know, you look at a guy like, and this is just me speculating off the top of my head. A guy like Larry Martin at Omaha North. Miller North's an easier job than Omaha North. It just is, in terms of the pool of kids you can draw from. OPS has been really challenging jobs since COVID, and they shut down that season. Like, that's kind of set back some of their athletics a little bit. So anywhere outside of OPS is easier than OPS currently. And that's not a knock on OPS. That's just kind of the way things have fallen since they canceled that 2020 season. So to me, that's where it's really interesting, is you've got some really highly successful guys that you would maybe think, hey, they probably don't want to leave their current job, but if you can win at that same level or even higher, and it's just a little bit easier, I mean, that's hard to
Where does Miller
down.
North rank in terms of like booster support?
I think it's pretty good. I don't know as much
Because that can sway
for sure
anybody
to
go to a program knowing that, hey, we're going to have, whether it's the funds to get new
like a lot of gear a lot of times, you know. So I believe it's pretty good, because I know that they, in the past, I don't want to speak too much about now just because I don't have as good of a feel for it, but I know like in the past they've helped fund like pretty serious weight room expansions and like new equipment and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty solid at the very least. I don't know in terms of compared to other schools.
Sure.
In my experience, there hasn't been much that Miller North has ever like wanted for that they couldn't get. So that's probably good enough at the very least in terms of booster support. I would guess it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like a West Side and a Prep, which are pretty good in those respects as well. So, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see, and I'm excited to talk to Sauter about it at 8:45 to see who he thinks some legitimate candidates could be for that job. Joining us at 9:30, one of our own as well, Jacob Padilla. That dude was just wire to wire covering high school volleyball.
He was all over the place this weekend.
Covered, I believe, I think I read this right on our social media. You can follow at Hurrdat Sports on Twitter if you want to stay up to date on all of this stuff. At Hurrdat Sports on all of the social media platforms. But I believe he wrote something about every single match that was played during the high school tournament. That's crazy.
I think he tweeted out that he wrote 9,000 words.
Yeah, something absurd. Just crazy. So we'll talk.
But that's Jacob Padilla.
Yeah, that's
absurd.
what he does. Yeah, that's what he does. He is he just grinds those things out, and
I think he still made time to write for the Husker volleyball team.
I think he did. Yeah. So we'll talk to Jacob about especially the high school volleyball championships wrapping up. Scott with their 9th in a row. Yeah, I said that right. 9. That's bonkers. And they were a little down this year. They were a 3 seed this year. They came, I mean,
And they were a little down this year.
they were. I mean, for them, that is a little
kind
down.
of, right? I mean, it's kind of what we discussed with Sauter on Friday. Their schedule.
They go out and play a different schedule.
It
and
makes them a 3 seed, right? I mean, you don't have 13 losses.
But I mean, even
unless you have the schedule that they've
been doing that for
facing.
a little while, and they've still won more.
Right.
So for them, it was a little down, right? Like we're talking in relative terms here. When you're winning 9 state titles in a row, a little down is like,
I don't know what down is.
I said a little, just a tiny bit.
I think vibes are up.
Well, I think they're up now. Yeah. After that, hoisting those banners again. And then we will wrap up with Nate Davis from USA Today to talk about the NFL, kind of wrap up a weekend. A much more relaxing weekend for me because the 49ers didn't play. So it's a little bye week. Just, sit back, relax, enjoy
I got
that.
to watch the Bears stay competitive.
You and those Bears, man. You
Stay competitive is the key word. I still don't understand the Montez Sweat deal. So he got paid.
I would say they did re-sign him, but that was the one thing we were concerned about.
The follow-up concern, though, is are they going to be a playoff team in 4 years?
Yeah, does it change anything? Because I don't think it does.
At best, you're probably looking at a team that makes it 3 years from now. At best,
yeah, because you need to probably get a new quarterback next year.
And if that's the case, is it Joe Burrow? Do you get there right away? I don't think this team is a right away Bengals team like what Joe Burrow got thrown into.
No, I don't either. And I don't know that there is listen, I know people are obsessed with Caleb Williams. Joe Burrow is just kind of a different cat. There's a reason I'm obsessed with that dude. Like when people say they're built different, like Joe Burrow's actually built different.
Well, Joe Burrow doesn't have any emotion.
That's what I mean. Like he's mentally built differently than just about anybody else in the league. And he's kind of got that Joe Montana thing where like Joe Montana's pointing out John Candy at the Super Bowl as they're about to go like make a game-winning drive, right? It doesn't even faze him what the situation is. I think there's this story about this middle school basketball coach. It's like, yeah, he's either going to be an elite athlete or a psychopath. It's like those are the only 2 options for this guy. And luckily he became an elite athlete, so we don't have to worry about it. But
we don't know the other one.
Well,
yet.
for now. But I don't see one of those guys in this class. Like I don't look at Caleb Williams and say like, oh man, he's that guy.
Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Yeah, like I don't know that there's any of those dudes that I look at and put in that category. So elevating the Bears to a playoff is probably at least 2 more years away.
So you have Sweat on a $98 million contract
for 4 years.
For 4 years time, but 2 years of playoff time at best.
Yeah, max.
Yeah.
It's a weird move.
Things kind of.
Well, we talked about this.
It shocks me.
The like the windows, right? Like you're a big baseball fan, right? And so they try and line up their prospect windows so everybody that they like kind of comes to the majors at the same time. So they have kind of your 6-year runway of like contract control,
right? So
that you can try and build a winner. This is a lot of teams do the same type of concept, and the Bears are like, nah, we're not going to be good for a minute, but let's spend $100 million on a DN that does it. Like he's a good DN, but he doesn't move the needle like that. I mean, it's not one of the Bosas.
Well, I mean, Sweat's really good.
He's really good, but how many wins does he get you a year?
I don't know his wins above replacement.
That's what. What's his VORP? I was a big VORP guy back in the day.
Were you?
Yeah. Oh, value over replacement player. Loved VORP.
Give me a little Chase Young action instead. How about that?
Yeah, it's the age difference as much as anything for me, right? Like he makes more sense for the Bears, and Sweat probably makes more sense for the Niners. But here we are. We'll get to some more NFL later though with our guy Nate Davis. I know you had a busy weekend too.
Really busy weekend.
You were out with Omaha hockey.
Yep, we started on Friday night and closed things out on Saturday. I was actually a dual purpose. I was dual threat that night.
Oh, you were pulling double duty?
I was. I had Avery's job as she was out in East Lansing. So I was doing the interview with Coach at intermission.
Okay.
And then if the team won, I was doing the the player of the game interview in venue, which is funny because I bet people like don't realize that I can have a different persona or personality, or I at least take that on when I do an interview versus when I'm the MC.
Oh yeah.
Because like I do my hit at the beginning of the game and I'm really loud and lively. I'm like, make some noise, things like that. And then like you hear me with Coach and I'm like, Coach, pretty good first period there. Got a goal right away off the start. How impressed were you with the team's performance there?
It's like
people are probably like, wait a second.
Wait, who is this guy?
He can turn down.
There's
like,
there's a volume button.
There is a volume button with Andrew. And it's the same thing with like the player of the game interview because I kind of combined the two. I was interviewing Victor after. So Victor Mancini scored the game winner, his first career goal.
Our guy, Moose.
Mhm.
Love him.
It was in OT on Saturday. So they split with Western Michigan, which was great for this team, especially after the performance on Friday night. It just seemed like Western was so much faster, and they just moved the puck better, even though Omaha got off to an early lead and was actually leading a majority of that game. Western just proved to be too much on Friday. But Saturday, when Moose scored that goal, I pull him aside after the game. We're doing the interview in venue, and so I'm like, Moose, take me through that moment. It's been a long time coming, right? And we're doing it. And then right at the very end of it, I'm like, and that's your player of the game, Victor Mancini. Make some noise. So it's like I kind of merged the two together. And people are probably like, this freaking guy.
What you Matt Rule? You friggin' guys. No, it is kind of funny to see you like switch modes because we were out at the Pinnacle Bank Championship in August and doing our whole week of shows out there. And then I would see you on our socials, like interviewing the golfers, and it's like two totally different human beings because you go from like on air MC Rogers
to buttoned up
to like Jim Nance at Augusta.
Right.
Like, how'd you feel there on 18? What was going through your mind as you putted for the championship?
Course conditions today weren't the best. How did you fight through them?
So Omaha got the split against number 11.
Yep,
Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a quality split there for them.
It really is.
No, yeah, I mean I'm in all honesty, that's even without the way Friday went, that's a quality split regardless because that's a really good opponent there. 3-2-1 on the season for your Mavericks hockey team. There's a lot to get to say the least.
It
but
all started on Friday.
It did, yeah. I mean, so we got high school football. We have our semifinals set. Class A football. A lot of blowouts in Class A. I thought the Millard South Omaha North game was going to be way more interesting.
Maybe defensively because of what Omaha North brought.
And I thought with their line play on each side, like I thought that would be a much more competitive matchup. But Millard South blew them out 45-0.
To be honest, though, I wasn't shocked that I saw blowouts.
Yeah, I mean,
especially in the West Side.
I wasn't shocked about that one because we saw how it went the first time, and it was worse this time.
Right, and I saw Omaha North play the final game of the year, and only put up about 7 points. But Elkhorn South's team was, I mean, they were missing Rauner.
Yeah.
So if you have like a really good quarterback in, you can take advantage of that defense.
Of Omaha North, yeah.
So Millard South didn't shock me either. And frankly, this looks like we're about to see two cars meet at the finish line, and it's going to be 1-2. The collision course is in process.
I think we are on a collision course for West Side and Millard South again. That game, I hope we have, assuming that's how it plays out. West Side.
That's how it will play out.
I mean, West Side will be a big favorite over Millard West. Millard South will be a big favorite over Elkhorn South. Although that game is interesting because I went to that game earlier this year, the Millard South, Elkhorn South. I believe it was back in like week 2. That's the first time Rauner got hurt. And that was such a strange game because Millard South had, I think, 3 sort of fluky touchdowns, and it ended up being 33-0 in that game. But it was 23-0 at halftime, and they had 2 pick sixes and one of the strangest chunk plays that you'll ever see. There was their running back kind of rolled over the top of a pile and nobody realized what was happening, and he was off to the races. So their scoring in the first half, like 21 of their 23 points were very strange. And then Ronner's out, and all of a sudden, it ends up being 33-0. But I'll be really interested to see what that looks like with Millard South and Elkhorn South, because I think there's a chance. And listen, I think Millard South probably ends up winning that, but I think there's a chance with, Ashton Murphy for Elkhorn South and their linemen that they can get it into a fight up front and make it interesting. Now, again, I thought the same thing about Omaha North when we saw what happened, but because of how fluky that first game was, I'm really interested to see what it looks like against Millard South on Friday.
I just think it's inevitable that 1 and 2 will find their way
into
the state final game.
I do too. I would like to see something a little bit interesting on the way there. But
I don't think those teams do.
No,
those teams are like, I'm good with winning like 49-0.
Let's just keep this train rolling. Yeah. So we've got the semifinals on Friday, and then the following Tuesday. So you get an 11-day break between semifinals and finals. But it does look like we are on a collision course for Westside Millard South rematch. That was a weird game. The first time it went out, the weather was brutal. The first really cold Friday night that we had.
But that was pretty competitive early on.
Well, so it was competitive in the middle. So Westside went up 17-0. Millard South came back to make it 17-14, and then Westside stretched it out at the end again. So that'll be interesting to see, because the wind in that one was such a huge factor, because, you were talking about 20, 30 mile an hour gusts right into guys' faces. Every pass looked like a duck. It was from both sides. It was rough. And there was a dramatic advantage going one way versus the other, obviously. So that'll be really interesting to see if the weather conditions are better in the state final, which, you hope they are, what that'll look like with the weather not being such a limiting factor. But yeah, the Class A looks like we're on a collision course. Class B, we did have some more competitive games. You had Bennington squeak by Norris 23-20.
I said that game was going to be close.
You did. That was a good call. I wasn't so sure, but man,
I actually thought it was going to be more high scoring than it ended up being.
Yeah.
But I thought the game was going to be very close, and it ended up being that way. But when we were talking to Sauter on Friday, he made me sound crazy to say that.
Am I taking crazy pills here? Another super close one. Scott snuck out a win against Blair 30-28. I think Scott was down big in that one too. If I was trying to follow along the scores, I wasn't able to watch them all simultaneously. Unfortunately, there's no high school playoff red zone.
That was a burner though.
I think they were down pretty big. I'll have to check with my people. And by people I mean Sauter, to see what that one was like. But I think Scott was down pretty big in that one. Elkhorn North and Waverly advance as well. So semifinal set in Nebraska's, in all Nebraska's classes, but those are the two biggest there. And we will, got another exciting week of high school playoffs. As I mentioned earlier, we just wrapped up the high school volleyball state championships. We'll talk to Jacob Padilla about that a little bit later. But coming up next, need to jump into Nebraska football a little bit, because
we have to?
I think we do. I've got some thoughts on how things went down. That's all coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back.
It wasn't egregious. It just to the level of where we've been playing in terms
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, so we had Billy and Ethan both up, right? You saw Ethan go out there at the end to catch it. Billy's just not quite 100% cleared, but he wanted to catch the ball. Last week the ball kept rolling and hitting. So, they hit some bombs. Even all of those, it look, I know it doesn't look great. Even the Gunners were down kind of bearing on him. So he fair caught it. I think if he would have had we went for the block a lot today. So the thought process was like, hey, let's go try to block it. We think we have a chance. We thought we had a chance going in the game to be a good block team. So we were trying to block him and then put him back there for the stability of winning the turnover battle.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla with Andrew Rogers. We are brought to you by our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. Dingman's has 4 great Omaha area locations. Family owned and operated for 25 years.
Best of Omaha.
for 18 years running. They have all the latest technologies to work on any make and model that you have, and they are giving back to the community with every car repaired. That's part of the reason we love them so much over at Dingman's. Make sure you check it out at dingmans.com for information not only on all their services, but on their give back program as well. Andrew, I wanted to get into this Nebraska game a little bit. Obviously, Nebraska coming off a 2017 loss to Michigan State. I think what we realized, one of the things we realized there, and I think Coach Rule kind of mentioned it as well, is the defense doesn't have a lot of margin for error. Because I didn't think they played poorly, but they did play just slightly worse than they had been playing, especially in the secondary. And that's pretty much what cost Nebraska. Outside of the obvious turnovers for the offense, right? But I mean things that were different from the 3-game winning streak. Because the offense, and you mentioned, and we'll get into the play calling pass attempts thing in a minute here, but you mentioned the offense didn't really look that much different. And you're not entirely wrong, right? Like there's a lot of similarities in terms of the overall effectiveness of the offense, right? And the difference was the defense gave up a couple chunk plays in the passing game, and that was pretty much the game. They gave up, I think, a couple 40-yarders and a 30-yarder, and that was enough in a game like this to make the difference. As you kind of watch this and are processing it, did you see a reason why the defense was playing a little bit worse, or was it just kind of, hey, maybe they weren't totally locked in today?
I think Michigan State did a really good job of play calling and mixing in some trick plays because the trick plays that they mixed in seemed to work and throw off the defense a little bit. So I thought Michigan State had good control when they were on offense. But you're right. I think we saw what the result will look like when the defense doesn't play at an elite level. Nebraska's offense, to me, didn't look any different or any worse, rather, than they've looked all season. But there's a willingness to limit the negativity or the outside noise when the team is winning. I mean, things begin to pop up more when the team doesn't end with a W in that column. I mean, the mistakes you were once willing to look over or give a slap on the wrist turned into, he's not a good passer, right? When talking about Harburg, before it was like, the team's winning. Yeah. We addressed that some of the balls don't look great, but the team's still winning. But when you lose, when the team loses, it becomes he's not a good passer. And that reaction is 100% warranted. Harburg looked extremely rough. Yeah. A lot of those balls, there was some overthrown. There was one that was completely off target that ended up in an INT. Now, some may look at that and be like, it was just like a punt. But dude was wide open. Alex Bullock was wide open. Yeah. And you can't miss that throw.
One thing when you're throwing something into kind of a jump ball scenario and you're like, if my guy comes down with it, awesome. If their guy comes down with it, it's an arm punt, right? This was not that. This was, hey, I have Alex Bullock wide open on the outside.
Streak to the corner of the end zone.
Yeah, you need to throw that to the outside shoulder, toward the sideline, toward that back pylon, and instead it ends up basically on the opposite hash directly to the Michigan State guy. So, yeah, arm punts are okay in some scenarios. That was not one of them.
This season hasn't shown anything that would make us think anything different, though, that Harburg is rough when it comes to passing the football. Even in a couple of games prior to when he led off with a couple of interceptions in the first quarter.
Yeah, the first
you overthrow Fedoni.
Yeah,
and there you go. You put your team, you put your defense with their back against the wall and hope that they'll play elite.
Yeah,
so that they stop or 6 points and just hold them to 3, or if they block a field goal and there they go down the other way and you end up getting 6 points out of it. But that's just the world Nebraska's in right now. It's no longer Lucas Oil. It's no longer Indy. It's get to 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just get to 6. Is there a scenario where, hey, the Big Ten championship is in the window? Yeah, it's way far now.
But get bowl eligibility.
All you need to do right now is get to 6.
Yeah.
And look, this team isn't good enough right now to be anything more. And that's okay. That really is okay. They don't have to be. They're building for the future.
Yeah, a bowl game is a huge win this year. Huge win.
They're not win now. They're not Big Ten win now.
No.
coming into the season. If they got to a bowl game, people would be over the moon.
And I still will be. Frank, I'll still be thrilled.
So because they're building for the future, I mean, I think we can officially say that the starting quarterback job is now a mystery moving forward.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
It's unknown what direction Nebraska wants to go to get to that 6-win marks. I mean, I've seen the question circling in weeks leading up to this. Is Haarberg going to be the starting quarterback next season? Like, can you instantly slot him in?
No.
The unanimous answer now is no.
Absolutely.
I don't think I would have been so quick to say no until this point. That I was leaning no.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have said, because if Haarberg wins out with this team, even though and say the defense was elite the whole way and Nebraska made it to the Big Ten championship game, it would be hard for me to say this guy wouldn't be the guy that I would say, hey, is projected to be the starter next year. Not that Coach Rule isn't all about, hey, compete for the position.
Yeah, he's not giving things away, but
if you win, how many games?
It would have been 9 if they had won
9 of 10 or 8 of 9, he would have won.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So if that's what happened, it would be hard for me to say Haarberg wouldn't be the guy.
For sure.
But in a moment like this, now I can finally sit back and say, here's what Nebraska needs to do. Nebraska needs to line up Sims and Haarberg in practice again, and here they go.
Yeah.
I mean, give Chuba his reps if you want. Give him his reps because he's a great passer. And we've heard that
from what we've heard. Yeah, we don't really know.
And we've heard, and I trust what I hear.
I do too. Right? Yeah.
So, but if this is me at this point, I think it's time to bring Jeff Sims back, give him a chance again.
Yeah. So there's a couple things there with Haarberg, and you're right. We overlooked some things. I think people were aware that he wasn't throwing the ball well, but I think it was more of a, hey, as long as they keep winning, I can live with it. So I don't know that it was ignoring his fault so much as, you're kind of tied to this guy for a while, right? And you say, hey, I can live with it as long as the W's keep coming. But I've had a really hard time trying to figure out if he was actually worse passing on Saturday or if because of the number of pass attempts, it just was more obvious to us because of how it kind of showed a magnifying glass on his flaws passing, right? Because there were, if my math here is correct, he had 28 pass attempts, but he got sacked 7 times. So that's 35 called passes versus 34 called runs. First of all, that ratio should never be more pass than run for this Nebraska team. That's a hard no for me.
Well, and you have to remember, though, Michigan State was the worst passing defense in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I don't care.
But the caveat to that, whenever they played the worst run defense in the Big Ten, which was Northwestern, they still threw the ball a ton.
Yeah, they still threw it more than they did against some other opponents. So, to me, I don't care if it's the worst pass defense in the Big Ten. You're one of the worst pass offenses in the Big Ten. You have to be, I say this all the time, you have to be competent at something in order to take advantage of someone else's weakness in that area. Nebraska's not really competent as a passing team. So you can't take advantage. Like,
they don't really have the weapons to be a passing
team. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's not just any one individual guy's fault. You're missing your top 4 wide receivers. You're missing 3 offensive linemen. You are on a backup quarterback. Whether the starter is better or not, we don't really know at this point. But you are on a backup quarterback. You don't have the tools, like you said, to be competent in the passing game. And so to go out there and be like, oh, we can take advantage of this worst pass defense in the Big Ten, to me was a mistake. I've been consistent. That number of throws that I want from Haarberg is 12 to 15, and he topped that each half.
Yeah, just at this rate, you'll get a quarterback competition this week.
I think
more than likely, Haarberg will be the starter come Saturday. But if mistakes happen like they did,
there has to be
I've seen Matt Rule pull the trigger before, and he's not afraid to do it again.
There has to be a self-awareness on the coaching staff to say, like, hey, maybe Sims isn't better, maybe Purdy's not better, but we can't keep throwing this guy out there to look like he has. Coming up next, we'll talk more of that Nebraska quarterback spot here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
Harburg is going to.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Harburg is going to pull it down and go. And the young man can run. Boy, they just let him go. He's inside the 5 and down to the 3. 43-yard run for Harburg.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me as well. And we're chatting a little bit about Nebraska football, as you can imagine.
That we are.
Surprise, surprise.
He definitely is fast. Like on that play-by-play cut, he started the run, and next thing you know, it was done.
You know, it's weird, though, because he is fast once he gets going, but there were a bunch of those sacks where, I don't know if it was indecision, but it seemed like he had a really hard time, like, getting the wheels moving. So I don't know if it was just his kind of acceleration wasn't there or if he was trying to decide what to do. But there were some times like he genuinely looked almost immobile in the backfield.
Yeah, when he gets into the open field, he can fly.
Yeah, his top end speed is very good, but I do think it takes him a while to get there.
But also, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt as well. When you're maneuvering tacklers, you're trying to figure out where the hole is. I think that's where that indecision comes in that you're referring to.
And I don't think he's the most elusive, like laterally. So that's probably not his strong.
Well, we've seen that.
We've seen
that his lateral movement isn't top tier.
You know, I was trying to be gracious there a little bit because I wasn't super gracious on Saturday, but that's okay.
Were you gracious toward the officiating?
No, I wasn't, and we can get into that because. And listen, Nebraska probably did not play good enough to win that football game. I want to say that first and foremost before we start talking about officiating. But that doesn't mean that the officiating was good, and it doesn't mean that the officiating might not have cost them, because there were several calls. First and foremost, let's talk about the touchdown, where the entire ball was touching the ground.
Where it was moving.
And his hand, one of his hands was between his body and the football, not between the football and the ground, which to me has always been not even close to a catch. He had one hand on the end of a football. And if you're watching on the YouTube or Twitter, you can kind of see me mimicking it here. But his one hand was here. The other hand was on the end of the football. And if this is the ground,
it was nose down.
If this was the ground, this entire portion of the football was on the ground, which in the history of football has never been a catch. And not only was it a catch, they reviewed it and they're like, yep, still a catch.
Well, and what's worse is you have Dean Blandino on the call getting brought in.
That's not a catch.
Saying that it's an incomplete pass. And then when the review says call stands, you go back out there and Blandino's like, well, every replay official, like, it's subjective. Like, and wait, how is this subjective?
Yeah, no,
like,
the entire football was on the
I thought
ground.
it was letter of the law. I thought that's why we went to replay, because everybody had a so-called rule book in front of them where in black and white it tells you what's this and what's that.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me that a replay official has like the verdict or has the ability to give a verdict based on his own judgment versus the judgment of what
the rule book
book tells you.
And on
that makes no sense.
Targeting, that is a real thing, right? Because there is some discretion there, because you can't always tell, okay, where was he aiming? What was he leading with? Whatever, right? But they've been pretty strict on catches, and literally the entire bottom half of the football was on the ground. He did not have control of that ball because it was impossible where his hands were to have control of that ball. So that was number one. That was the most egregious, I thought. The second most egregious was probably the face mask.
Oh, see, I thought it was going to be the Coleman PI or the non-PI call.
So that one was bad, but yeah, there's a lot of them.
The reason that one was so egregious to me, and it's not just that Nebraska would have gotten a 15-yard gain. You're moving the ball down the field. It's the fact that a defensive player jumps into the offensive player.
Yeah, he looked
before the ball even got there.
He looked
as
like
Coleman's making his route.
Yeah, he looked like he was going to make the hit as if Coleman had already gone for the ball.
If you put that in basketball terms, if Ravi does a pump fake and I bite on the pump fake and I jump into Ravi because I bit on the pump fake, that is what? A foul.
That's a foul. The only question is, in that scenario, did I go up for another shot and I get the shots, or is it a possession foul? But it's definitely a foul.
It's a foul.
Definitely a foul.
I jumped into you.
Yes.
It's the same thing if I plow you over when you're waiting for a rebound and I come in and shove you.
Yes.
So that I can get to the ball first. That's exactly what happened in this moment. And there was no call. There was no nothing.
Nothing. And it was definitely catchable because that ball was barely past him.
I mean, Rule was irate, and rightfully so.
Absolutely.
Rightfully so. That was over the top. The one that was like, okay. Like, you miss a face mask. Like, I know you said it was right in front of the official.
It was right in front of the official, and it's the head turn for me because, listen, a lot of times you'll like graze a face mask, whatever, and that's exactly what the ref says. He goes, hey, he didn't grab it. But it's literally Harburg's head turned. So that one's really bad. The PI was really bad.
The PI to me is just what's worse because, okay, forgive me because I'm thinking back to the Harburg play. Was he still holding on to the ball at the time? Did he get sacked on that play?
I think he got sacked, yeah, but he had the ball at the time.
So then these kind of go hand in hand then. The reason I say that is because where are your eyes looking if you're an official? Like that back official's looking at the quarterback. He's making sure that there isn't a roughing the passer call. He's making sure that
it's his entire job to make sure there's not a penalty against the quarterback.
And maybe he was looking downfield because he thought, Harburg was going to do something and, he looked too early, whatever. But on a ball that's thrown deep into what we'll call it double coverage.
Yeah.
And everybody's eyes are on those three players, everybody on the field. And that doesn't get called. That's why it's so egregious in my mind. We talk about all these penalties, though. Did Nebraska lose the game because officiating was poor? No. Was it a piece of it? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Both of those things can be true at the same time. Like
they absolutely can, but there was so much more that goes into the loss for Nebraska than the officiating, but they were hindered moving the football and because of officiating.
We have to get into the last drive with the play clock as well. And because first of all, they throw that ball to Malachi Coleman. That was a first down. Like the pass to Coleman was a first down.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it on replay. Like it was by like a solid yard.
The yellow line is not perfect when you watch on TV, but if you look where the stakes are, it was an absolute first down.
By like I think about a yard. Like it was not particularly close. They mark it back 2 yards.
You lose
and the clock,
19 seconds
or
whatever.
Yeah, the clock keeps running, right? So that's number one, huge problem. Number two, you've got the fumble from Harburg, where I don't know if it was a fumble or not. I think it probably was, but you at least have to review that. You have to review a turnover or a potential turnover in the last 2 minutes of a game. Like you have to review that.
Again, Dean Blandino gets on the call and says it's an incomplete pass.
Yeah, Blandino thought it was an incomplete pass. I thought it was pretty close. I really don't know. I thought it was a coin flip, at best. But to be that close and to not even look at it, to just assume, like, isn't that the reason we have replay? To make sure we get it right.
Well, 100%. That Dean Blandino, and I'm going to read his quote because I have it right in front of us. It's an incomplete pass. By rule, the hand coming forward with control starts the forward pass motion. And that's a big play. And replay has to come in and stop the game because you make it incomplete. You put time back on the clock. It's a big play. He says it again. They should have stopped it.
Yeah. And so you've got not only the fumble, which cost them basically the rest of the game, because they have to run, get the play off with like a second left, and they barely even get the snap off. So that's a huge one. The Coleman first down, non-first down is a huge one. The clock operator and the officiating in that last drive. And listen, we've seen Nebraska's offense. Were they going to go down and score? Probably not. But you do have a kicker with a huge leg. You don't have to get all the way to the end zone. It's not crazy to think they could have gotten
you could get to midfield and Rule would have tried it.
Just give it a shot.
Rule would have tried a field goal from way past 60.
At least you get a Hail Mary attempt, right? Like at the very least.
What would you feel more comfortable with? A kick from Alvano so say they're exactly at midfield. So he's kicking from 67 yards away. Or would you rather have Harburg throwing a Hail Mary?
I'd go Hail Mary at midfield.
No way.
Yeah. If you give me to the 45 and give me a 62-yard attempt, yeah.
No, you're kicking it with Alvano.
Not at 67.
To tie the game?
Not from 67.
We've seen him in warm-ups kick it from 70, 75, and most kickers with big legs can. I don't care if he misses by a mile. You put the pressure on that kid to tie the game because you know for a fact that kick would probably have a better chance of working out than the Hail Mary. For a fact.
I'm not taking the 67-yarder. I'll go give me 62 and below. I'm in.
You know how exciting that would be to watch a 67-yard field goal to tie the game? You would much rather see that than the Hail Mary because you would be more ecstatic for that ball to go through the uprights than you would watching Harburg's pass either sail or go short.
No, I'm not taking a 67-yarder from just about anybody not named Justin Tucker. Like, I'm just not.
He is Justin Tucker. He's the next JT.
I know you've said that, but that 55-yarder that he kicked didn't look like it had 12 more on it.
He's got about 12 more legs than we do. He can kick it from 67.
I mean, I'll wait and see there until we get past. I mean, listen,
I wanted to see it.
I'd have taken a shot from 60 for sure. But so that's only what, the 43? You're telling me they couldn't have got to the 43 with an extra 30 or 40 seconds that were robbed of them on those plays?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, they wouldn't have been so pressed for time.
That's what I mean.
Like
yeah,
the pressure was on.
You could have done a bunch of different things to try and get that done. And that to me is, again, would Nebraska have won the game? I don't know. Probably not still. Would they have at least been given an opportunity by the correct rulings on the field? Yes. And that's all I'm really asking for. I'm not saying it changes the outcome. I'm saying it changes the opportunity. And that's all I'm interested in. There were some truly terrible calls in that game. Nebraska might have still lost, but it sucks that we have to have the conversation. It's still the touchdown bothers me the most.
Well, that made it a 10-point game.
Yeah, I just also the football's on the ground. I don't know how you make that call with replay with the football on the ground. I just don't know how you do it. Coming up next, we've got Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. I'm sure he's got thoughts on the Nebraska game as well. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
I just never felt quite as to the level of the way we've been playing in terms of, the physicality and coming downhill and striking and tackling, like we were falling off. But it was never, I wouldn't say it was egregious. It just, at the end of the day, like we expect our defense to go out and play to a standard. Kind of like I said to you guys last week, right? The standard wasn't quite what we thought last week. But again, we can't give up big plays. Doesn't matter how good you are on defense, sacks, takeaways. If you don't take the ball away and you give up big plays, it's not a recipe for winning.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me. We are now joined by our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
We are doing okay. Let's just jump right into it here. After Saturday's performance, what do you think is the most likely path forward at the quarterback spot just through the end of the year? Not talking about next year yet, just for these last 3 games. Do you think this is still Heinrich Haarberg's job, or do you think it starts to get opened up to competition?
Well, if you open it up to competition, then you have to determine, if Jeff Sims wants to play. He's got his 4 games now, right? So he's never redshirted. In theory, he could graduate and go somewhere else and have 2 years. I think Sims would probably play if that's what you wanted. And then, of course, you have Chuba Purdy. And maybe you give the Chuba Mobile a spin and you just see what he can do. I don't know. We've seen him play. We saw him for 2.5 games last year. And I don't know that set the world on fire. It didn't. Actually, it wasn't very good. And what I've seen from Haarberg is better, to be very honest with you. But Chuba didn't have the same defense that Nebraska does have now. He did have Trey Palmer. So, if you want to play him, you have to assess how well he can run the option. They obviously want that to be a part of things. And can he do a little bit more in the pass game? They're going to have to chew on that themselves. There are things about Heinrich Haarberg's game that I like. I've said that I think several weeks in a row. So I think he's just going through the education of being a quarterback. He's working through some of the things that he's trying to get better at. They almost won the game anyway, and they had one of the worst passing games I think they've had since they've joined the Big Ten. I mean, it was bad, but there's things that I think he understands about his play, and I think he's trying to get better. And they just don't have a ton of pieces. The receivers are young. Mm-hmm. The line is beat up. If you can go away from Haarberg, but nothing that Jeff Sims showed in the 2 games he played was encouraging. I just didn't like the picture when he was out there, including passing the ball. I thought he threw the ball too low a lot, whatever. But there's probably things he can do that Haarberg can't do. And then if Chuba goes in there, you have to expect Chuba to have a ramp. And by that, I mean he's going to go out there and you just don't know what's going to happen. You can't assume he's going to go out there and go 15 for 17 for 205 yards like Josh Dobbs. I mean, it's not going to happen. So you have to expect if Purdy plays that he's going to make mistakes too. Every decision that you make at that position cannot be a one-drive decision. Otherwise, you'll send the message to the rest of your team of, we don't really know what we're doing. So they have to think about how they want to manage that position over the next 3 weeks. I would think it would still be Haarberg. Maybe Matt Rule will tell us something different today.
Sam, on Haarberg's performance this last week especially, how much of that do you put on him where he obviously struggled in certain areas? How much of it do you put on kind of the play calling that asked him to drop back 35 times, which resulted in 28 pass attempts, the most Nebraska's had this year?
I don't put a ton of it on the play calling. I think that this was a team that you had to go throw the ball against because they're going to run some man coverage, and if you get out of the man coverage, then you could scramble. So there's some things there, and you're going to have to try to beat them over the top. And I don't think the play calling was bad. I'd probably put away the 2 quick screens. That play, which we had not seen all year, didn't work. And they must have thought I think they thought they saw something that said, if we run tempo and we get up to the line of scrimmage and we throw that quick screen out to Bullock, he's going to have 7 or 8 yards, and then that's going to adjust that safety, and then we can run the ball. Like, there was a reason they did that, and the play didn't work. Now, you can say that it was a bad play call, or you can say it was a bad idea, but obviously they did it with some intention. They did it twice, and then they put it away. The other ones, I don't have a problem with a lot of the throws they're trying to make. A couple of them, Harburg needed to just let it go. Another one, Bullock dropped. They tried the bootleg, the reverse out bootleg pass. It's a kind of a single person safe route, comeback route. They missed it for a third week in a row. It was covered fairly well. That happens sometimes. That's a pretty common play. Then late in the game, you're trying to get back into it. You got to throw the football. So, and I thought, they broke some big plays, actually. They hit Malachi for 30 and Harburg scrambled for 43. And so, that's the way it goes late in the game. I didn't have that much of a problem with the play calling. I'm sure some people did. You can argue that they should have run the ball more, but they didn't control the game. They weren't really in control of the football game. So just running the ball to run the ball can be hard. And the other thing I'll say, Ravi, that virtually nobody mentioned, I think my game story mentioned it, but the difference in the punting was huge. Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, Buschini did not have a good day, and Nebraska's strategy of putting a guy back there who could not return punts to fair catch punts was, did not work.
No.
14-yard difference. 14-yard difference, and that is a lot of yardage. That's not easy. Fair caught. I mean, and Kemp fair caught a punt at the 5,
and another one inside the 10.
Shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So, that was another 15 yards that they lost. They really, really struggle with that part of the game, and they're just going to have to work on it. They put Ethan Nation back at the end, and I thought that was a good move. I mean, that's a position that a freshman can handle if they can field the punt. Strategy backfired it. So there were a lot of things on Saturday that didn't go well. And Rule was right about the defense. The defense did not come out in its usual edgy way. They got 2 coverage busts on the first drive, and they were coverage busts. And, that led to a field goal. It just never felt right. And he was right about that. Michigan State played a little harder and a little better, a little more under control, and Nebraska, was couldn't catch up. So I thought it was a 3-phase loss when I watched it, but other people focused very on Harburg, and that's fine. But he was hardly the only issue on Saturday.
Sam, you mentioned not having a big problem with the play calling. What about with officiating? Because that was pretty sus at a number of moments in that game. Were you disappointed with how that played into it?
Well, I think they missed the face mask. They didn't mean to miss the face mask, but they missed it. And the play at the end of the game. Now, here's what I would say. That's a weird deal at the end of the game where it would have been better if Michigan State had recovered the fumble or the clock had run out. But it was very hard for Nebraska to make an appeal in that moment as the clock's running and they have to run a play. And it would take a super savvy moment to say, we're going to let the clock run out and challenge that fumble. That's hard. What I will say is it was an incomplete pass. 1, 2, it would be a fumble for many quarterbacks. And here's why. Most quarterbacks would start their motion where Harburg had the ball when he lost it. Harburg brings the motion and starts it low. And by the time the ball gets knocked out, his arm is going forward, but it is under his ear. His hand is. So a lot of quarterbacks will start there, and then they will go back, and then they will go forward. Harburg doesn't start there. He starts way back, almost back behind his shoulder pad. So his arm's going forward. That's an incomplete pass. But I can understand why referees would think empty hands, because that's where a lot of empty hands would be. You'd have to figure it out in review, and there was no time for a review because they already ran another play before anybody could look at the review. And so, that's the hard part about that moment. is you have to be watching the motion, not where the ball is. And Nebraska would have benefited from a recovery by Michigan State, which would have stopped the clock and would have triggered a review on a turnover or clock running out, which is what happened to Texas all those years ago, and they were able to review it as opposed to running another play, So that was a tough deal. I know there was something about pass interference and, whatever. I mean, that happens all the time. Michigan State got whistled on a hold on an interception that was ticky. I mean, it wasn't ticky-tack, but, it was kind of beside the point. So plays go both ways. That happens.
What do you think about the touchdown? The touchdown that got called a catch, even though the ball was on the ground.
Yeah, I would have probably overturned that review. I'm not exactly sure what they saw. We asked, and we were told that the Big Ten doesn't comment on judgment calls. So we asked after the fact because we don't know who the pool reporter was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to the Big Ten directly, and they said they don't comment on that stuff. And so, I don't know what they saw. It's hard for me to speak to it. So that's hard. That was a reviewed play, and it did look like the ball was moving a little bit, but they called it a touchdown.
Sam, how about this? In a game where things definitely didn't go Nebraska's way, or they didn't play their best football, what's one positive that comes out of a loss like this in your mind? Whether that's something you picked up on that hasn't been there all season, or something that improves what Nebraska is trying to build in the future.
I thought Malachi Coleman played well. I thought he blocked well. I think he's a physical blocker, and I thought they finally started throwing him the ball. He had 6 targets. He only caught 2 passes, but I thought Malachi Coleman, that was his best game, and he got, he's a good blocker. He did a nice job there at times, but I don't know how you're going to see what he can do unless you throw him the ball. And Harvard's got to throw him the ball, and they've got to create opportunities for him to get the ball. I've been a little surprised up until Saturday, like what he's doing out there, like throw him the ball. Like if you're just having him out there to be a decoy or to block or whatever, there's a lot of guys who can do that. Malachi's not the most polished receiver, but he might be the most physically gifted receiver on the team, and you're not going to know what he can do until you throw him the ball. And so I thought they did a better job of trying to get him the ball downfield. And I think, the one he caught, if he breaks that leg tackle, he's gone. There's nobody going to catch him. So you have to do those things though. And I know they tried more, and I think that's good. You have to learn how to begin to do that. Back to the pass game a little bit, and I didn't write this in the rewind today because I'm not a coach or whatever. So I do feel like a lot of Nebraska's pass plays are designed to accomplish something specific to a specific receiver. And so he has defined reads, and it's like, we're going to play action here. We're going to roll out here. We're going to throw this comeback here. You're going to look at this. You're going to look at this, and you're going to look at this. I think that there's some value in just drop back, look for the guy that might be open, and throw him the ball. And I think there were a couple moments like that late in the second half that were actually good for Harvard. He needs to learn how to just 4 wide. You got 4 routes. Here's your first read, your second read, your third read, but you might have to progress through the read. We're not going to cut the field in half for you. We're gonna make you stand in the pocket and do something. We're gonna make the guys protect. And over time, you're going to get better and better and better at that. And I thought that was good, and I thought a couple times, he made the right read and threw a pass that he should have. And so those are things that, you just have to continue to build on. We can get very trapped within the concept of the season, and they're 5-4. They need to win one more game. They might do that Saturday, and they're in a bowl. And everything from that point forward is like a ladle of your favorite gravy, whatever that is. And that's, seriously, everything. Nobody expected anything more than that. So everything else is about the big picture from there, and how you get better for next year. And they won't look at it that way. Obviously, they want to go up to Wisconsin and win. Obviously, they want to beat Iowa. All those things are true. But at some point, you have to say, all right, we got done what we wanted to get done. Now we need to see what we can do. We need to be a program. We need to find out who we can be. And can we live into the identity we want? And part of the identity they want to live into is they want to be able to throw the ball 25 or 30 times a game, like most teams do, and have that go well. And you can't do that until you try it and you fail. And so I think that's a positive too, even though it didn't go well. But fans don't see it that way. Fans see it as, it didn't work, don't do it again, do this thing over here. Well, Nebraska certainly could have run the ball 57 times for 204 yards. I don't know that they win the game doing that. We need to be honest. This option thing is not going to be a permanent part of the plan, or it shouldn't be. I mean, it when teams figure out how to stop it, it doesn't look very good. And they really struggled with the option on Saturday, and they might do better against Maryland, but Wisconsin and Iowa will swallow that stuff up.
Sam, you mentioned the last 3 games and just needing to get to that 6th win. Do you think Maryland is the best opportunity for that one coming up on Saturday? Or, obviously Iowa's had their own struggles offensively, and that one, it's probably going to be a 1-possession rock fight one way or another. But as you kind of look at these last 3 games, how do you gauge Nebraska's chances of getting that 6th win over the course of those games?
I do think Maryland is the best of the 3. Maryland has historically gotten off to awful starts this year. They fell behind 14-0 against Virginia. They fell behind 14-0 against Charlotte. They lost 51-15 to Penn State. They fell behind, 14-0 there pretty quickly. They're beat up. Penn State's a really physical team, probably more physical than even Ohio State this year anyway. Mm-hmm. So they're going to come in really knocked around, their defense especially. So, and they're terrible in November. Maryland is one of the worst teams in college football in November in the last 7 or 8 years. I think they've won 4 or 5 games. And Nebraska's not much better, mind you, but they've won more than that. And so this weekend would be the game. You've got to be able to run the football. You've got to be able to, to hit a few passes, and then you've got to find a way to slow down a pretty good quarterback. You got to slow him down. You got to slow Tagovailoa down, and I'm sure they'll give it a good crack.
Sam, Nebraska wasn't penalized Saturday for the first time in a game since 2005. What does that say about this group that had to battle adversity all day?
I think it means that they're getting better at getting set. The motions and the shifts are working, and they're playing clean football before the snap. That's what it says, and that's good. That's good. You're not getting the little 5-yard penalties here and there, delays the game, or false starts, or little things like that. Obviously, that's going to happen most games, but that's good. You're not having a bevy of those kind of mistakes, substitution errors, things like that. The other thing is, this will sound sort of counterintuitive. It wouldn't have been the worst thing to have a couple penalties of aggression. I felt like Nebraska's aggression just wasn't quite what it was previous weeks. So you're going to get some of those penalties sometimes. Good teams get penalties of aggression, whether it's holding on defense or a late hit, stuff like that. That happens. And Nebraska will get those penalties. We'll incur those penalties again, I'm sure. So, but it's really encouraging for the pre-snap stuff and not, having any procedural penalties, because those are the ones that in theory you should never have. And the ones that you can most easily prevent. And for one day, they prevented all, which is good news.
Sam, with you kind of mentioned the lack of aggressive penalties. We talked about earlier the defense not really having that edge to it. The last time we saw that was against Michigan. They bounced back against Illinois and looked significantly better for a stretch of a few games there. How much different do you think it is going from, hey, the best opponent on your schedule, to Illinois and recapturing some of that edge there, versus going from Michigan State to probably a better team in Maryland? I mean, record-wise, certainly a better team in Maryland. How much different or how much more challenging do you think it's going to be for the defense to recapture their edge as they head into a stretch against better teams, as opposed to what happened with Michigan into the Illinois Northwestern Purdue stretch?
I think it depends on how healthy they are. I think the linebackers looked a step slow, quarter step slow. Secondary too. So, I don't know exactly what that is, but they just looked a quarter step slow. And I don't think that's because they weren't trying hard. I think they're beat up a little bit. Now that Buford's back, can he play safety? And Hartzog go back to corner opposite Newsome. And Newsome got beat on the stutter and go, but a lot of the day Tommy Hill struggled. I mean, he was trailing a lot of plays. And I think on the double pass that was his bust, but hard to say. I don't think on the first big pass of the game that was Tommy's mistake. He let that go, and I feel like he let that go because the safety was supposed to be there once that play went over the middle. But I don't know. We can ask Rule about that stuff today. I don't know. I thought the linebackers played a quarter step slower than they have, and I think some of that was because, everybody's beat up. I mean, this is a grueling league physically, and it's grueling to play Power 5 football every single week. It's just it's a real test of your will and all those other things. You have, I think, 3 undefeated teams that are group of 5 teams: Tulane, James Madison, and Liberty. If you put those teams in the Big Ten West, not only would they not be undefeated, but they'd probably be 5-4 or 4-5. That's how different the physical test is. And that's not to diminish group of 5 teams, but people may know that 4 teams just joined the Big 12: Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and UCF. Do you know what their combined conference record is right now?
No, off the top of my head, no.
5-19. And 2 of those wins are someone beating Cincinnati, which has not won a game in the league. That's the difference between the group of 5 and the Big 12, right? Physicality and those things. I don't think the Big Ten West would be all that different. And people, again, James Madison, great story, okay? Great story. They're doing what they're asked to do. And if they were in the Big Ten, they would recruit better players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But people do not understand the physical toll that like playing Minnesota and Iowa and Nebraska and all that would take. And that's what that little snapshot in the Big 12 tells you, is that those teams were not equipped to go into the Big 12 and match up physically. How much harder would it be in the Big 10? It would be a lot harder. So people have to have an appreciation for what Nebraska is experiencing and what it has experienced in previous years.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate it as always. We will talk to you next week.
Take care.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Coming up next, time for Shane's World.
Oh, no.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Shane's World, party time, excellent.
Okay, right, excellent. Woo! Okay.
That sound can mean can only mean one thing. It's time for Shane's World. Shane's World is, we're going to have it brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook and Casino this time.
That's my type of world gambling right there. Between two different beans.
So we are gambling. We're taking a 50-50 shot here with the beans.
Maybe
but
50-50 for you.
This is a, we don't have, I don't think, time for the sports cleanup today. So this is taking a spot of the sports cleanup because we've got a lot to get to still, but we needed a little palate cleanser in the middle of the show here.
Is this a palate cleanser, or
we might need a palate cleanser from our palate cleanser?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But we are brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. They are the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. You can do so at the casino in Lincoln or in Omaha at Horseman's Park at 6303 Q Street. That's right. You can place bets in Omaha at Horseman's Park now,
which is sweet.
Huge for the city of Omaha. We love to see it. We love our friends over at Warhorse Sportsbook. They can take bets on pretty much every major sporting event. They have all different kinds of bets, straight bets, parlays, props, live in-game bets are all accepted. Visit warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook or get the Warhorse Casino app for details and full list of house rules. Remember, you have to go to either the casino in Lincoln or to Horseman's Park in Omaha to place your bets. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. And listen, our philosophy here is no beans, no glory on Shane's World. We got to get the jelly beans to get the glory, and we are taking some bets here on who gets the best.
Spinning the
jelly
wheel.
beans. We're spinning the wheel,
which I was spinning during the break, and I'm like, man, this lands on Old Bandage and pomegranate a lot. Or oh wait, there's strawberry banana.
The pomegranate's tasty. The pomegranate's good.
I got to tell you, man, we have yet to have a strawberry banana smoothie one.
Yeah.
We both gotten dead fish before.
Yeah.
Which you were not as gag reflex heavy as I was when I had.
I was expecting it to be worse based on your reaction.
I smelled your cup afterward last week.
Yeah, and you gagged again.
Yeah, it's disgusting. All right, so here's how the game works. Shane will get a prompt from Ravi and myself. We will bet on how many he can get right in 10 seconds. If Shane goes over the number that we claim party on to, the person who said party on has to eat a jelly bean, spin the wheel. But if Shane doesn't get to that number, then the person who made the bet, say Shane was going to get 5 and Ravi told me to party on, and Shane gets 4, then I spin the wheel for a jelly bean. You have the timer set, 10 seconds. Ready, Shane? Are you ready to go?
5 is kind of high. Let's do it.
We're going to start with this one, Ravi, this prompt right here.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring it up.
How many can Shane get right in 10 seconds?
All right. I have the information up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready, read the prompt.
No, you gotta guess how many. Like,
oh yeah,
3. Like, come on, party on, Shane. I guess, and you're not gonna get any.
I'm gonna say 3.
I'm gonna say party on.
All right, Shane.
I'm hoping he panics.
In 10 seconds.
This ain't no panic at the disco.
Name as many college basketball teams in the preseason top 25. Go.
Kansas, North Carolina, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State.
We have 3 there, I believe. All right.
Do we? I think he got 2. He got Kansas and he got UNC. Maryland, Michigan, and Ohio State are not top 25 teams.
I thought Michigan was in there.
Yeah, so did
no.
I thought I saw that yesterday.
I stopped it early.
No.
Shoot. I stopped it early because I thought Michigan was in there.
I'm like, I don't think so.
Shoot.
Shane, you realize Creighton is top 10, right?
I know. You can't hit me with a Creighton there, Shano. Man, I really thought Michigan was
No.
in there. That's
So
fine.
now,
all right.
Ravi, spin the wheel.
All right, here we go.
Let's go. Get something bad. Get something
terrific. We have Juicy Pear or Booger.
The green guy.
The
Green Goblin.
Yeah,
right
Goblin?
there.
All right, we got my spit cup ready.
My friend.
Not even Catholic. It's okay.
Again, did the sign of the cross the
I
wrong way.
always do. All right, here we go.
Come on. Give him Booger. I want to know how bad Booger tastes.
Juicy Pear.
This is ridiculous.
See? And you were mad I didn't say Creighton.
I love a Juicy Pear. It's delicious. What? You invented this game, man.
You know how wild this is? What's wild is I'm going to lose this next round. I'm going to get cappuccino and liver and onions.
You're going to get liver and
All right,
onions.
I'm going to get liver and onions.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, you got a prompt or you want me to
go ahead.
Go to the next one here? All right, next one down the list.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I think Shane can get... Oh, man. Okay, let me type this down because I need to know if we need to do this.
I think it has to be the first one, yeah.
Just that one?
Yeah.
Okay. That changes the
game. It does, dramatically. Dramatically.
I think Shane can get
2.
I think Shane can get 3.
Party on.
Let's go, Shane.
You have to tell him the prompt.
You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Shane, in 10 seconds, I need you to name current, and that's the key word here, current race car drivers. Go.
Wow.
Do you love NASCAR?
I don't really watch it, though.
And time. Wow.
This dude lives and breathes NASCAR.
I don't live and breathe NASCAR. I watch the Daytona 500. They bring old guys back for that.
Could you name 3 past race car drivers?
Oh, yeah.
Naturally.
Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon,
Yep,
Jeff
nope.
Burton,
Quite
Dale
down.
Earnhardt Jr.
That was my favorite.
Ryan Newman.
That was my favorite one. Wow.
Wow, good. I got juicy pear booger.
Ooh, let's
and
go.
you know what I'm going to get? Booger.
I'm eating all the juicy
Guaranteed.
pears, so I don't
What is
know.
this one?
I think
This
that's
one?
it. I think that's it. Yeah. Here we go, bud. Shane, that was incredible.
It tastes like pear.
I think you got juicy pear.
I think it's a pear.
Wow,
All right.
Look at that. Look at that.
Back-to-back pears.
We love a juicy pear.
I don't hate Shane as much
on
anymore.
Hurrdat Sports
Tony
Radio.
Stewart. I mean, I can
Shane,
go on forever.
knock it off.
All right.
This is unbelievable. Let's do one more.
Prompt number 3. Okay. Oh, geez.
Mountain Dew flavors.
No, not again.
Yeah, Mountain Dew flavors.
Shane, I believe you can name 3.
I think Shane can name 4.
Party on.
Is it NASCAR drivers again?
Come on, Shane. This is past NASCAR drivers. All right. In 10 seconds, Shane, name
4.
At least 4.
I would
go over.
I'd prefer fewer.
Go over. Football teams in the NFC. Go.
Philadelphia, Dallas, New York, Atlanta, New Orleans, San Francisco.
Keep going. Keep going.
Man, that's all I needed.
Keep going.
You're at 6.
Yeah. Last time, though, when we asked for 3 and you named 5 and only got 2,
And only 2
that's
of
why I
them.
need you to go over.
No, those were
Yeah, baby, Shane.
Well, that
those
was
were all
easy.
right. Oh, hold on. That didn't count. Got to give it a good flick there.
Yeah, now you're going to get like Berry Blast or
No, we're on boogers or juicy pear again.
Jeez.
Man, booger.
Boogers
we
due.
are due for booger.
Booger is due.
There's not a lot of them left.
It's got to
It's
be
that
those
right.
2,
Yeah,
right?
these 2, right? Yeah, that's about all we got left here. This feels like I'm dead.
That one looks like Booger for sure.
Yeah, that's why I didn't pick that one.
Oh, good.
That feels like
Minnesota, Detroit. I mean,
I was saying, you didn't even name Detroit. I thought Detroit was the one you were going to get.
All right, party on. Let's go.
All right, here we go.
No way Booger can be that bad.
I would say that Booger actually seems like one of the more mild ones compared to like barf or dead fish.
I know them both very well.
Although dead fish wasn't that bad.
You
were being soft.
No,
about
you
dead fish.
get out of here. You're a dang animal.
Yeah, that's Booger.
Is it bad?
It's not good.
What does it taste like?
It doesn't. I mean, I haven't had a booger since I was a child, but
compare it to something.
It's
on your beard. That's so gross.
Yeah, it kind of tasted like vegetables. Kind of tasted like like poorly cooked, like boiled vegetables. It almost tasted like onions. There's like a slight onion aftertaste to it there.
Hey, I'm just happy I had one good one today.
I mean, honestly,
and I'm on top of the world right now.
I thought that was worse than dead fish, but I didn't think either of them were that bad.
No way.
Not onions.
Booger's
It tasted
worse
like a
than
little
dead fish.
It's got a little like a peppery taste to it, almost like a green pepper. It was weird. Is there one that has a green pepper? That might not have been Booger.
No, there is not.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy, Mike Sauter. He's got high school football. He's got Nebraska basketball covered right here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I want to tell you about our friends at Teammates Mentoring Program. 1 in 3 young people will grow up without a mentor. That's why in 1991, Dr. Tom and Nancy Osborne founded the Teammates Mentoring Program. It's their mission to positively impact the world by inspiring students to reach their full potential through mentoring. Mentors and mentees meet in school during the day for about 30 minutes, and they talk, they play games, they do whatever's going on. And many mentors and mentees have reported, over 90% say they are positively impacted by this program, and mentors often get just as much out of it as the mentees do. Go to teammates.org to become a mentor today. Joining us now live and in person here is our guy Mike Sauter from Hurrdat Sports. Covers
Hello, Shane.
our teammate.
Hello, Shane.
Covers.
Good morning, Mike.
Shane's over there too. He covers all of our high school sports as well as Nebraska basketball.
Sure.
All fitted up today, going down to Nebraska ball.
Yeah, fitted up today.
Yeah,
you got a collared shirt on.
Hanging out with Lindenwood.
I will not.
Let's go, LQ. So let's start. The reason we wanted you on, first and foremost, we will talk a little Nebraska basketball, but the longest tenured coach in Class A history, is that correct?
Yeah, by a zillion years.
I would say by a solid decade or more.
At least.
Fred Petito from Millard North, my alma mater, retired. Mike, you broke the news yesterday. You were kind of telling a funny story off air. How did breaking that come to be?
Well, I got, you know, they met as a team yesterday. He told the team at 11 a.m. yesterday. And then I got word of it, you know, quote sources. And then I was like, oh, you know, like
that's a big deal.
I may have cussed. And then it was, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to call him. So I did. And then obviously I called, you know, administrators there and stuff like just to double check. And I said to them, how do you want me to handle it? Like, do you want me to, you know, wait, or do you want me to, are you guys going to say what do you want me to do about it? And so Fred was like, do what you got to do. And I said, okay.
Do your thing.
Yeah. And, you know, we had a good talk, and I told him how much I respected him for, you know, he didn't know who I was when I first started doing this. He'd been around forever. And, you know, I remember the first time ever like meeting him was after a game, and it's intimidating.
I was like, he's not a big guy, but he is intimidating.
Yeah, but he's actually not.
Well, he seems intimidating.
Yeah, like you just are a little like, okay,
very like kind-hearted.
Yeah, no question. And so I told him how much I respected him and stuff, and I said, I know you're not dying, so like I'll see you around. but it was good. Like it was good. He was pretty matter of fact, right?
No comment.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was initially, I was like, okay, I got to write a story quick, and you know, like a quick breaking news story. And then I asked him, I said, okay, coach, you have a quote like that I can use? And he goes, I don't need a quote, no quote. And I'm like,
that's
okay.
what you should have wrote.
And I'm like, that's Fred Petito.
I was like, that's the most Petito answer he possibly could have given.
Yeah. What another thing too, I asked him, or when he said that, I said, well, your record is your quote. And he said, I don't even know what my record is. And I was like,
that's the new quote.
Hold up.
Which again is about the most Petito answer you possibly could have.
So, you know, I'm working on something. I was hoping to get it done yesterday, but or last night. I mean, I once this happened, I was just on the phone all day and night, the rest of the day and night. So it was talked to a lot of people. Story will come hopefully later today. If not, it'll be in the morning, on just his legacy. And, you know, I talked to obviously former players and all of that. And some of the stories are just phenomenal. Like, nothing really to do with football. Like,
well, that's the most of it, right?
Like it's life, like being there for his kids. Like
I feel like that's a lot of, well, at least with good coaches or great coaches, that's the response that you get a lot of the time.
Yeah, no question.
No, he turned me into a man. It's not like what we produced on the field. It was what happened off the field that impacted my life the most.
Right. Like the quote that stands out to me the most is, I talked to Todd Doxson, and it's going to be in this story too, but I'm going to find
former Iowa State player.
Yeah, former Iowa State.
NFL.
Yeah, former. You know, he played both, like baseball and football. And Todd said that Coach Petito was instrumental in like let him do both and all that. It's kind of hard to do, and you know, all of those things. So the quote is from Todd. It's my sophomore year in the gym at Millard North. Coach came up to me and said, "Todd, let me tell you something. You're going to play on Sunday someday." It was with such conviction and encouragement. I was 16 and he was speaking destiny into my life. Like, it's powerful.
Yeah.
So he did that probably with a ton of kids.
Yeah.
And he's still, you know, it's he's still gonna be around.
And you don't do what he did for that long unless that's the part you care about.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you don't coach high school football for over 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Without that being the thing you care about most, because he had opportunities to go other places.
Oh yeah, he was
over the years.
41 years just as
the head coach
at Millard North as the head coach,
because he
there
was
were
there,
coaches before him.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah,
and he was there for those.
And he was at Cathedral
for 2 years.
Oh yeah, for 2 years before that.
Yeah.
So I mean, his record just at Miller, 5 state titles, 8 state final appearances. It's really hard to do. Like 279 victories, 155 losses, 279 wins is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, so.
I mean, and you mentioned 5 state titles,
Yeah.
all of them between 2013 and 2015.
Yeah. 15 was the most recent one.
Yes.
It's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
Like, people think like, oh, they've
fallen off or whatever.
No. 2015 is not that long ago.
Yeah, they were dominant for a stretch of
Right.
12 years, and they made all 8 of those state finals in that same stretch.
Yeah, I believe
So
yeah.
in a 12-year period, they have
from like 02 was the first one they won.
02 was the first one they appeared in.
Right.
That was with McCardle.
Yeah.
They lost to Southeast.
Yeah.
And then they won their next one the
3,
next year.
Yeah.
So between 02 and 15, in a 13-year period, they made 8 state finals.
Yeah,
that's bonkers.
Yeah, it's pretty dominant.
And he had maybe his 2 best players ever before that,
right.
in Crouch and Dodson.
Yeah.
So it is a
Tarpinian
was in that stretch.
You can just keep,
Adam Shada.
Yeah.
Adam Shada.
Who's now helping it. Wahoo.
Seth Olson, who played in the NFL as an offensive lineman for a while. You had a ton of guys, and then you had just a bunch of guys.
Sean Fisher is the guy that stands out to me because he was a stud.
He was really good at Miller North.
Safety and quarterback.
Running back. He didn't play quarterback. Sean Fisher.
Oh, his brother. Okay, yeah.
Bobby Fisher?
No.
Where is he?
Definitely not.
End up playing linebacker at Nebraska. I think he's a doctor now. He's like went to medical school.
Yep.
An incredible legacy, and not just I think maybe the most impressive part is not the guys that went to play Division I college football or in the NFL or whatever. It's everybody else.
Yeah, the backup linemen.
Yeah, the guys that he had a huge impact on.
Right.
One of my good friends, Jermaine Foster, who's been helping coach out on the staff the last couple of years, he was a solid receiver, but you're a receiver at Miller North. You're not doing a whole lot except about blocking, right? And the impact that, I know Coach Petito had on his life on a guy that's he didn't play Division I football. He didn't do, he wasn't Eric Crouch. He didn't do all these things, and he still poured into those guys the same way that he poured into the stars.
I got a coach. We move on after this, but I got a quote from a coach, and I'll keep it anonymous, but a coach that's won state titles, right? Like in the last recent years, multiple. We were striving to be like Millard North. We've won a lot, but we still are striving to be like his teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the legacy there.
Super well respected by everybody.
Yes.
In the coaching community.
It's who you try to emulate.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the quote tweets from your breaking news story.
Yeah.
And it's like a ton of coaches, obviously a ton of ex-players.
Yeah.
But the amount of coaches throughout the Metro that either played for Coach Petito, that coached with Coach Petito, that were impacted and they directly impacted their careers and what they're doing now is astonishing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Real quick, and if you've got a minute, we might keep you at 9:00 for just a little bit.
Okay.
I know you have to get on the phone and talk to some people, but real quick on the last thing on Petito here, who are some candidates, or where do you think Miller North goes?
I think there's gonna be a lot.
It's a good job, right?
It's a really good job.
Like it's a really good job.
Okay, the school, high academic school,
super high academic school.
Great facilities,
great support.
They really care about winning and sports and academics.
Tons of talent to draw from.
Yeah, talent's there. You can also, it's an open school, so
open enrollment. You can bring guys in.
Yeah, like it's a
really good job.
Very intriguing job. I talked to a handful of coaches yesterday that are like very
crazy. Or are you going to have sitting head coaches?
Absolutely,
apply for this job?
No question.
Like
no question.
Guys that are successful where they're at right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I talked to
multiple
2 or 3 yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be
that are current head coaches that win.
This is going to be a hot job
for sure.
This is one of the better jobs in the Metro.
No question.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
No
question.
So that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Mike, stick with me for a second. Yeah. I do want to talk about Nebraska basketball. They kick off their season tonight. We will do that. Your kid is She's
like, oh, you have to stay.
Your kiddo's being a trooper here. We appreciate it. She does not seem to love the content as much as I hope our listeners do. But we will get to Nebraska basketball with Mike Sauter coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities.
We We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We are on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and for this hour number 3, we are on KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here. Mike Sauter sticking with us for a little bit to preview Nebraska basketball.
And Leighton, my kid.
And Leighton.
Leighton's here. Sticking it out.
Being a champ, we appreciate it.
She doesn't know that we're talking. She knows we're talking about her. She's ignoring.
She is. She's not even looking at you. We are
She's playing with her loose tooth.
If you want somebody to pay attention to you, though, call Dyer Law. If you've got a personal injury, accident, you need somebody you can count on, call the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand. No matter what you're dealing with, call Dyer Law 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law. That's DYER.law. All right, let's change gears here, Mike, with obviously we were talking about Coach Petito, high school football there. We'll talk to you more about high school football at the end of the week in your normal segment. But I wanted to move on to Nebraska basketball. Got to get down on Friday?
No, is that the song?
That is the song.
With arms wide open.
Oh, sure.
Not as good as that song, obviously.
No,
but
it's anything is better than that.
Nebraska kicks off their season tonight with Lindenwood. They might be dealing with some personal injuries as well over there at Nebraska.
There's a lot going on over there.
So let's start there. Who do you think is actually going to be available tonight?
That's very true. Well, they had 6 scholarship guys available last week
against
in their
Doane
exhibition.
Yeah.
And then Casey got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, okay, they finished with 6.
They finished with 6?
Yeah. So yeah, Casey Tominagi gets hurt 7:29 mark of the first half of the exhibition.
Who's counting?
Not that not that we remember.
I did the math. And I was like, when it happened, I was like, this can't be real. Like, this is not what is going on here. So yeah. I think they're gonna get some people back. Matar is coming. Well, okay. Not only do they have like knee injury, Josiah Alec has knee injury. Rink Mass,
has an injury.
Yeah, has some stuff because of the
off the court incident.
Off the court incident that was unfortunate that happened to him for sure. That just the more I hear about that, by the way, it's wild.
Super bizarre.
Yeah, super bizarre.
Yep.
So not his fault. Just cruising along and there's somebody just beat him up. So yeah, Rink, like, is he available? Josiah, is he available? Don't know. Fred last week on Wednesday or Thursday said they had 4 guys come down with strep throat. This is after Matar job, who, by the way, like, need to see this dude play. He is so athletic.
Yeah.
Like, skill-wise, he still has some work, but he is so long and so athletic. Fans will love him if he like gets in the game and just even for 5 minutes, because he'll make like a couple splash plays, right? Yeah. So the post, is a little questionable. Like, who's
replacing Derek Walker?
Yeah, well,
Like
that was supposed to be Rink,
right? But who's actually available?
Yeah, who's actually going to be able to play is the one. I do think. I mean, should they have a problem with Lindenwood tonight, even if all those guys are out? Probably not. I mean, you have
Lindenwood covering.
Come on, man.
Minus 21.
Ramel Lloyd is still dealing with his knee. Blaze Keita is still dealing with his ankle. He said they're moving him along. He did some on-courty stuff. I mean, that's like a long ways away from him.
For Keita.
Yeah. Juwan Gary is also not going to play again for the violation of team rules. So yeah, might see some Cale Jacobson at the 5 again.
All right.
We did in the exhibition game. And he actually did, pretty well. So
as they get through, kind of this first stretch of the season.
I'm kind of thinking who the starters are going to be in my mind. I thought about that last night, and I was like, just wonder. There's a bunch of Eli Rice is a guy that played really well.
How far off is Tominaga?
Oh, he might play. Fred's on Thursday seemed very optimistic. Not near as bad as they initially thought. He's been
just limited minutes.
Yeah, moving around and stuff. We'll see if they might. I don't know this, but it sounds like he might give it a go or might hold him out this game. So
that'd be a plus, obviously.
Yeah, it's not as bad. It's not like broken ankle or anything.
Okay,
just roll his ankle.
Well,
it was pretty bad. I mean, his ankle was on the floor.
Yeah, so you don't love to see that.
It wasn't great.
Now, we were talking to John Fanta last week, and he made a bold prediction before he got off the air and said Nebraska will be marching this year. Do you think
in the NIT?
Well, I was going to say, do you believe in the truth of March Madness?
He said,
NCAA. If you look at their non-conference, right?
Pretty
at that
manageable.
Very manageable. Yeah. They travel like a total of 700 miles. in the
Yes. Yeah.
non-conference. Like it's a lot of home games.
One of them's in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Their road game is at K-State. That's right down the road, right?
Yep.
And then Oregon
Which is
State.
funny how close Manhattan actually is to here.
Right. Yeah. And then K-State or Oregon State is what? Is that Saturday? Next
Oregon
Saturday.
State
18th.
is
I'll be
the
there whatever
18th.
day
It's
that
a
is.
week from Saturday.
Yeah. So very manageable.
Yeah, Sioux Falls.
Right.
Yeah.
Just the game itself. So
Yes.
if you look at it, I kind of did the math, not guarantee anything, but you're looking at like 9-ish wins, right?
In the non-con.
Yeah. Creighton is the one, they get Creighton at home.
Yep, which helps.
That game's always close no matter what. Well, most of the time.
Yeah, there was a stretch in there where it wasn't.
Yeah. But the last couple of years, handful of years, it's been that Creighton game's been really close.
Yeah, very competitive.
Yeah. So, and in Lincoln, it's a little different, right? So I don't know. Let's just say you chalk up a loss to K-State because they're going to still be pretty good. And then you chalk up a loss to Creighton because they're a top 10 team. You win the Oregon State game, you're at like 10-ish wins.
Yeah.
So like in the non-con, you're 10-2.
And then you have to get to
9 wins.
They
won 9 in conference last year.
So you get 9 in conference and you're in the
Basically,
conference.
you don't lose at home
Yeah.
in conference, or you drop 1 or whatever and you steal 1 or 2 on the road.
Yeah, I mean that gets you the NIT for sure.
Yeah, 18. I think in this year's Big Ten, because it's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
I think if you get 18, 19 wins, you're definitely bubbling for sure.
Yeah, you're easily in the
You're
NIT,
right on the conversation.
and you're in the conversation. Now, their non-con
Basketball will dance this year.
Wow, John.
Now, the non-con schedule may hurt them a little bit on
RPI.
that front there with the non-con.
But they'll make up for it. I think they did
during
that on
conference
purpose, right? They need it.
You needed a runway.
Well, based on last year's outcome, 16-16, how many more wins do they need to get to a point to where they are dancing? Like, is it five more wins?
Probably
Can they be?
4 or 5. Yeah.
Can they be 21 and
11
and
I
be
think
marching?
if you get to 19, anywhere 19 is probably the number.
Okay.
Yeah, just because the non-con, the RPI is going to be pretty low. Yeah, 19-ish.
19-20.
Now if they beat K-State at K-State,
Looks a little different.
Wow.
If they get either K-State or Creighton, that obviously bumps them
a ton,
dramatically.
huge. And you got to almost bank on the fact that you can beat Oregon State, which is pseudo home game, right?
Yeah, you need to be able to win that game. Are we? I know that we like some of the pieces, some of the guys they have back, some of the guys they brought in. Are we not paying enough attention to Walker and Griesel leaving? Like those are two of your better players last year.
Not only Sam just on the court, but off the court, everything.
Well, Vanderbilt was what a top 5 scorer on that team,
right?
too.
Right. But Sam, the culture,
yes,
the like community feel, and all of that, like he
was a huge thing
amazing
last year.
with that. It was huge. And Walker he
was a pretty unique talent.
Yeah,
at
Walker
that spot.
was unique.
Yeah.
His ability to just catch it at the high post or top of the key or free throw line extended and 1-2 dribbles and get to the bucket is something like Rink can't do that, right? But Rink can shoot from 3, like make a jump.
Couldn't really do that.
Yeah. So like you can't leave him open, and Josiah's ability to do that a little bit as well is something that will stretch. Like this should be fun. I think they're gonna play pretty like a lot faster, or want to play faster. So I think that could be something to definitely keep an eye on. You're not just gonna what I call Doug Gottlieb him. The post when he catches at the top of the key, right? Remember Doug Gottlieb?
Yeah, I do remember.
He's one of my favorite college basketball ever.
Okay,
no question.
That doesn't super surprise me.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a personality.
I grew up in
match there.
Tulsa, so I was an Oklahoma State fan as a kid.
Yeah.
Like big country, and Byron Houston and
Brian Reeves.
Yeah, Corey Alexander, all those guys. I grew up, rooting for, cheering for all those guys. And quick story time with Mike here. I did. I was a ball boy for Oral Roberts University as a kid.
Nice. Okay.
I feel like you've told me this before.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State was like my favorite team. And for some reason, Oklahoma State agreed to play Oral Roberts in Tulsa at the Mabee Center.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. They would never do that now, right? And that night, I remember the student manager who was in charge of us. I'm in like 4th grade, right? And the student manager who was in charge of us, I like begged him to be Oklahoma State's bench that night. And I did. And I like went in the locker room and all that stuff. I still have a game ticket, like an actual ticket when they had paper tickets.
Way back in the day, right?
Right. I still have that, and I still have a newspaper cutout of Bryant Reeves, Sean Sutton, Byron Houston, and Darwin Alexander, who was on that team, an autograph. Like I had them sign it for me.
Nice. That's cool.
Still have it, like
nice.
in
That's
a
really
sleeve
cool.
in my thing. So
it's a core memory.
So Gottlieb
was one of your guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though
I only know him as an analyst.
When I say they Doug Gottlieb him, Gottlieb would catch it. He's a point guard, and they would stand at the free throw line. They're like daring him.
Yeah, he couldn't shoot for anything.
Yeah. So that was
he was like an old school point guard, like a distributor.
Really could pass it and all that stuff. I don't.
So Nebraska, you think NIT is a very reasonable goal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
NCAA tournament's like a stretch goal, but reachable, but a little bit of a stretch.
I think it's reachable. It's just a matter of like, one, how good is the league actually really going to be?
Because the league's going to have to be good to
can
bump
you
up
go
their strength of
and
schedule.
Can you go on the road and beat Minnesota or whoever? Something.
You have to beat like a Minnesota on the
Yeah.
road. Have to beat like a Northwestern on the
Right.
road. Play teams that
Northwestern's been pretty
Northwestern's good, but they're not like. I mean, maybe Northwestern's a bad example.
Yeah, that's a bad example.
But
Rutgers is actually going to be pretty good.
Rutgers
this year,
should
I
be
think.
pretty good again. But again, those are the kind of teams that if you're going to be in that conversation, the Rutgers and Minnesotas, you have to be able to beat. At least split those series.
Right.
You mentioned if they just don't lose at home, which I mean,
Like they play Indiana at home. Wisconsin is, it's
How much
up
of a dark
there.
horse do you think they are to make
Iowa
a deep
game?
tournament run?
Who?
Wisconsin.
Oh, a deep one?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Like
don't know.
I look at them as a true dark horse to make a deep run in the tournament this year.
I don't know.
A lot of depth on that team.
Yeah, I know.
or like a Michigan at home this year.
Like at Ohio State or Ohio State comes to Lincoln. That's one that maybe because they had a bunch of roster turnover. Iowa, frankly, like
They're just always competitive.
that'll be.
But like
something.
at Iowa would be a good win if they
Yeah.
could go to Iowa and get a win. There's not a ton of road games that I look at and like,
No.
that's winnable.
Yeah, at Rutgers, tough, right?
But the one, because that's one of like the toughest.
at Maryland, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So those are the ones
And by that time, they might have just been all out on their
packed
team
it
or
in
something.
on
Yeah.
the season. At
No,
that
I'm saying
point.
they're fans or something.
Yeah,
So it's tough. Like
it's the handful of road games in.
You have
conference.
Rutgers twice, one there, one in Lincoln. Purdue is home game. They should have beat them last year.
Yeah, I don't know that you can expect that.
Well, they should have beat them last year.
I understand that, but they're Purdue's a lot better than Nebraska.
And Michigan State comes to Lincoln
Michigan State's
for a
also
Sunday
a lot better than
5:30
Nebraska.
game. Imagine if that was on Saturday at 5:30.
That'd be a nice one.
Be a little different.
A little bit different. A little bit
I don't know.
different.
The outcome seems like it'd probably be the same.
I'm just saying. I don't know.
So any other thoughts on Nebraska ball before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic that they're going to be all right if they can figure out the health stuff.
Yeah, if they can get any sort of healthy.
Man, yeah, they're going to shoot it better.
That's the
think,
idea
for sure.
Yeah,
They're like I said, the bigs can stretch it a little bit more,
which helps.
Intrigued by Jamarcus Lawrence consistency is something that's going to be super key for them. If he can play hard all the time, if he plays like he did against Doan in the second half, that'll be huge for them. Like all the time, that'll be huge for them because point guard feels like it's going to be sort of by committee.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional. They're not going to play like a traditional. This one guy brings the ball up, right?
Yeah,
like,
you don't
that
have
just
like the guy.
Yeah, that just isn't going to happen. But I think it should be fun. Like I think they should be all right. I think NIT is a very real possibility for sure. And then a little bit if you can win a couple games there, you jump up.
Do you have any concern? And we'll let you go on this one. Do you have any concern about the non-traditional point guard situation in years past? when Hoiberg has tried that. And I get it was with different guys that were not as good of fits necessarily, but that's been an issue in the past when they didn't have a traditional point guard. Last year, they kind of jumped up when they had Greasel to kind of steer the ship.
He did that his whole life.
How concerned are you about a lack of a traditional point guard here?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm more concerned like who's going to play the wing, because there's like a ton of dudes. Like the minutes are going to be tough for that. So, you have Wilcher. Sam Hoiberg's going to probably play. So like tough kid. So Jerron Coleman is not Boogie. Like he's not a point guard, right? Like they tried to make that happen.
Right.
The Aaron Eulis thing, I'm just going to go ahead and guess he's never going to probably see the floor.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
He's still practicing and everything, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw that one out, that I think that's probably not happening. And that was the guy that they wanted to
be the point guard.
Yeah. So, Bryce Williams they have a lot of size. It's just
they've got some pretty good size on the wing. They've got a lot of,
right, that's what I mean. There's
6'7",
a lot of wing
6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys on the wing.
Yeah.
It's just the point guard spot's a little dicey.
Yeah, a little dicey. Casey obviously is not a point guard.
No, not in the traditional
Boy,
sense.
you can run him off some. You can run him off some screens, though.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
And he will fire away.
You can. Him running baseline, just running the baseline, getting 4 screens, I think is going to be something.
That's the offense right there.
Yeah.
The whole, just
get to the corner.
Just everybody runs around,
right,
waiting for Casey to get off a screen there.
Okay,
Sauter, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a great day.
Go take Leighton wherever she needs to go.
Well, she's got to go to work with me first.
Oh, well, that seems fun.
Yeah.
You excited? Thumb up or thumb down? Thumb down.
You have snacks. You have your computer. You'll be fine.
I mean, it's better than
you still don't have to be excited.
It's better than school, Leighton. What are we doing here? Come on.
She likes school.
Oh,
so this isn't better than school.
It's definitely not.
She's one of those.
Yeah.
Sauter, we appreciate you coming in on short notice. We'll see you on Friday.
See ya.
See you, Mike.
I do want to stick on Nebraska. Just do predictions on our side real quick, and then let's do college basketball as a whole, because I don't know if people remember, college basketball kicks off tonight. Creighton, it is opening day. We both love college basketball. Creighton kicks off tomorrow, so we'll do our Creighton preview stuff tomorrow. But I'm kind of there with Mike. I've got just kind of, it's sort of a tricky endeavor, but kind of ballpark in the schedule. I think I had them around like 18 wins, which seemed about right to me. Conference play is going to be tough. There's not a lot of road games in conference that I think they can steal. And there's certain teams that probably beat you at home just because of their quality. So I landed on about 18. I think I got to about 9 or 10 out of conference and 8 or 9 in conference. How are you? Which to me, that puts you squarely in the NIT.
Right. And I kind of based my knowledge off of people that know a lot more than me, like Mike Sauter, who's walking out, and John Fanta, who we talked to last week. If John Fanta, though, thinks Nebraska ball is going marching this year,
Nebraska ball will dance this year.
I am going to make my prediction based off how they get there.
Okay.
And in order to get there, I had them at 20 wins.
20 wins?
I had them at 20 and 12.
All right.
I think they play 32 games.
It's 31 or 32.
It's somewhere around there.
I honestly, I lose track of count.
But I have them at 20 wins for that reason. And I know, as you said, you were going through the schedule and you're like, I don't really see them stealing one here. Well, if they want to get to a point to where they are,
they're going to have
in
to
the
steal
NCAA tournament, you have to steal at least 2. And I don't know what 2 they are just yet, but I think Nebraska basketball has enough working for them that after non-con play, they'll be able to figure out how they want to run this season.
Yeah, what's as Mike mentioned, how healthy they can be is going to be a huge key here, because I really feel like if they can get healthy in the non-con, and because they should be able to win a bunch of those games without being fully healthy, but if they can get healthy by kind of the last few games of the non-con, have a little warm-up before conference season, I think that gives them a much better opportunity. I just don't know what that looks like in terms of how healthy they're going to get. That's the key for me. But we're in the same neighborhood, 18 to 20 wins. I think you're in the solid NIT to bubble NCAA conversation at that point. And that's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, if you can be an 11 seed, you come in and you play one of the first 4 games even, why not?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Why not? I mean, shoot, if you're not an 11 and you're a 13, who cares? You're there.
Yeah, I mean, I could very easily see him as like one of the 12s in a play-in or something like that. Like, there's not a huge gap between those teams and the teams in the NIT. So, if the conference is as good as we think it's going to be, then they could very easily sneak into one of those spots as a kind of a play-in 12, just based on the strength of the conference.
It's really just a matter of how well these transfers gel.
Yeah.
In with the roster from last year.
And I am worried about the point guard spot because historically,
and it's okay to be, because Sam Griesel ran that team last year.
And that's the best they've looked, is when they've had a true point guard. The years before that, they kind of tried to do a non-traditional point guard situation. And I'm thinking of like Teddy Allen. I'm thinking of Trey McGowan's. I'm thinking of Alonzo Verge. Like, those guys really struggled as primary ball handlers to get the rest of the team going. And you saw how dramatically different it was with Sam last year. So I'm worried about it reverting back to how it looked with some of those guys. And I get the pieces are different, but that's my biggest concern for this team, is the lack of a true point guard. They were really counting on Ulis to be that guy. Without him, in all likelihood, that to me is my biggest concern for this team.
We'll just see. We'll see how it all lays out. I can't wait to actually be there tonight.
We'll see starting tonight.
And you know what? It's not going to be what we see, a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah.
But it's at least going to give me a good opportunity to see some of these transfers in action, some of the young guys go, because if those guys are up to speed, I know what Tominaga offers, right? And I know what if we're going to limit minutes on like Wilcher or somebody like that. Like, I know what we're going to get out of those players just based off their performance last year, or at least the expectation of that. But I'm just really curious to see if this transfer class, which I think is solid, I think Fred Hoiberg did a great job in bringing in the right guys, the right pieces to fill this team. I'm just curious to see if they are up to speed with what the want is at Nebraska this year, what they want to get accomplished. Are they going to be running they did last year? And if not, how are they going to spread the ball around? Because without a guy like D Walk, and I know I'm bringing him up again, but he was your X factor.
He was so important to that team. That's why I asked Mike that question, because it seems like we're expecting them to take a step forward despite losing their 2 best players from last year. In my opinion, Tominaga's in that neighborhood. 2 of their 3 best players, though. Griesel and Walker were probably the 2 most important players on that team.
Well, you talk a lot about consistency when you say those 3 names. How consistent can Casey be this year? We know he can get hot and stay hot,
and he's going to be the focal point.
But how consistent can you be when you had a guy that took a lot of attention last year in Derek Walker, and then to add to that, Sam Griesel?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be the top of the scouting report for everybody this year. That's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. We'll get to our college basketball predictions as a whole tomorrow when we preview Creighton as well. We've got Jacob Padilla coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back as we continue here in our hour number 3 on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We are joined now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline by our friend Jacob Padilla.
Yeah, we are.
Our very own Hurrdat Sports teammate. Jacob, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty well. What's up, guys?
You
What's up, JP?
had quite the busy week and weekend last week covering.
He didn't write a lot.
High school volleyball. Man, yeah. Did I read that right? You had a write up on every single match that was played at the state championships. Is that right?
Yeah, for the most part, the third place matches I just put the score. But other than that, yeah.
It's
wild.
That's incredible. So let's get into some of the big takeaways. Obviously, Scott wins their 9th consecutive state title, which is just doesn't even sound right to say out loud. I mean, that doesn't even really make sense. But obviously, they have been dominant. They were the 3 seed this year, and they came through and beat Norris. Just your impressions of that Class B run for Scott.
Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive the way they played in that championship match. Scott, they lost 13 times this year, but all the losses were to Class A teams or teams out of state. And I only saw them in person the first weekend at the WS tournament because of the way their schedule was set up with so many out of state matches and all that. So I didn't know kind of what to expect from them. I didn't think they didn't play great that first weekend. But I mean, that championship match just controlled throughout. They saved their best volleyball for the most important match of the season, and I mean, won that thing running away. So it's impressive what Coach Saunders has done there, where new players step in and they just keep rolling along there. Like she said, it's 9 in a row, but each one is different. Different players on each, different roles, and they find a way to keep it rolling. So Scott, 9 straight, and I mean that's I don't know what you can say about that besides just wow.
Jacob, I don't know how much D2 volleyball you were able to catch this year, but for the first time in program history, Overton is a state volleyball champion. How impressed were you with that group?
Yeah, and especially the way that the third set went, going extra points, finding a way to get it done. I mean, Jolie Ryan for them had a phenomenal season. Stepped up big in the championship match. Really good player, and so to get that done, not only to win it, but to win it in 3 against the number 1 seed. Pretty impressive showing for Overton there.
Jake, I want to jump over to Class A, where Lincoln Southwest wins the title without dropping a set in the tournament. But maybe the bigger story, at least early on in the Class A tournament, was Papillion La Vista knocking off rival Papio South in that first round in a 1-versus-8 matchup. I guess, how surprised were you to see Papio South bounced like that? And then how impressed were you with Lincoln Southwest run through the tournament?
Yeah, quite a bit for the upset there. Papillion La Vista is the only team that had beat Papio South this year, but Charlie Solomon, who is one of their best players, a kind of hybrid setter, hitter there for them, she didn't play in that match, and so it's a little bit different. They were at full strength for the state for the quarterfinals there, and not only did Papillion La Vista go win that, they won it in 4. Like, it didn't even. I mean, they played an incredible match there. Just Faith Frame, their libero, she's headed to Cincinnati. She was unbelievable. Literally left it all out there. I mean, on the match point, she cramped up midpoint. So I don't know what would have happened if Mia Taverdi hadn't terminated on that point, because she was down on the ground. If the ball had come back over the net, they would have been in trouble. So that was a really impressive showing by Papillion La Vista. And they've got Frame I mentioned, Mia Taverdi is going to Oregon. So 2 high major players plus some small school commits as well. That was probably more talented than the normal 8 seed that you would find in a tournament like this. They just got off to a slow start this season. So they put it together at the right time, but weren't able to sustain it throughout the entire tournament, because, man, Lincoln Southwest, really impressive showing. It's kind of the same thing as like Papio didn't get past 17 in a championship match. I mean, they went on a 12-2 run, I think it was, in the first set. Then they went 11 straight to close out the match after Papio had taken a lead in the fourth. Just really impressive team. It's a senior-led group. Their setter, Malaya Long, is going to Marquette, and I haven't seen them play much this year just because the way the schedules worked out and everything. I was really impressed with her. You could see just watching a handful of points, like, okay, yeah. You can see why she's going to a really good program like Marquette, just the way she impacted the game in so many areas. And then Emerson Lineberger had a really good tournament as well. Outside hitter there. She's going to Air Force. Led them in the championship match and had a couple other good showings as well. So they've got Maddie Rink is going to Northern Colorado. So it's a senior-led group. It's a talented team, and they just played really good volleyball, played really well together defensively. That was kind of the key to that match. They completely shut down Papio's best hitters and just control that match throughout there. 0-34 hitting. Papio is out in the championship match. So that'll get it done for you.
Jacob, I want to take advantage of more of what you offer, not just on the volleyball scene, but basketball especially. A big commitment for Nebraska women's basketball yesterday in Britt Prince. And I'm curious, what do you think Nebraska's ceiling is with a player like her on their roster for the next 4 years?
I mean, got to continue to fill out the pieces around her, but she is absolutely a ceiling raiser. She's as complete a player as I've ever seen at the high school level. I don't really. She's pretty much good at everything. Can handle it, can shoot, can pass. Is a playmaker on defense. Can go up and rebound at the guard. Really crafty finisher. Like some of the stuff that she does, you just typically don't see in girls basketball at the high school level. So she is a massive get for Nebraska there. And if they can continue to, I know she slipped in the rankings. She was injured, wasn't able to play this past summer, so it dropped from 10 to 28 on ESPN's rankings. But I think the first ranking was probably more accurate. So kind of my view, she's the highest ranked recruit they've landed since Jess Shepard. And obviously that was at the tail end of Connie Yorey's time there, and things kind of went a little sideways there with Shepard. So they weren't able to really turn that into major success. But I think Nebraska will have a much better chance to do something special once Prince gets to town there. And they've got some pretty good commits already on the way as well, some other guards. So I think they've got a chance. Their young bigs showed some potential, and Natalie Potts in particular in their exhibition game. So I think there's a lot to be excited about for the future in Nebraska women's basketball.
That's Jacob Padilla, our teammate here at Hurrdat Sports Radio. He used to obviously cover for Hale Varsity and became part of our team, Hurrdat Sports here. Jacob, when do you switch your attention from volleyball to, I know you're covering quite a bit of basketball this year too. When does that switch happen for you?
Well, it's already kind of happened. Tomorrow. So I'm doing everything at once. That's kind of how I do it. So I'm always thinking about basketball. So I can multitask.
Always thinking about basketball. That's why we love you, Jacob. Jacob Padilla, Hurrdat Sports. Make sure you check out all of his work as well. Jacob, we appreciate you as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Jacob.
That's Jacob Padilla, our teammate at Hurrdat Sports. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Nate Davis from USA Today about the NFL and what happened this weekend here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Tua out to Hill, and that goes nowhere. Ball's loose. It is loose and picked up and lateraled. Brian Cook. Touchdown. Kansas City.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me. We are joined now by Nate Davis. He covers the NFL for USA Today. Nate, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
We are doing well. Let's jump right into it with the NFL from the weekend. More impressed by the Eagles win over the Cowboys or the Chiefs win over the Dolphins?
I guess equally impressed. I mean, I kind of expected both of those outcomes. I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you. I guess the Chiefs, given that the game was a home game for them, that they surrendered to play in Germany, and those guys the Chiefs, that is, were on the ground Friday, whereas the Dolphins spent most of the week over there. So the Chiefs had a little bit more acclimating to do, and they didn't do much offensively, but I mean also defensively, they shut down that number one offense for a good chunk of the game. I think it was the first time in 40 games the Dolphins hadn't scored at all before halftime. So even though the Chiefs still not kind of the explosive Chiefs we're used to. They sure are playing well defensively, and there's no probably bigger test in that Miami offense. So let's give it to them.
Emergency alert. CJ Stroud in the building. Let's talk about CJ for a moment here, Nate, because if you would have asked me coming out of the NFL draft that he would be putting up the numbers that he is, I probably would have laughed at you, just knowing that it's a Houston Texans team. And I would have probably leaned more Bryce Young in that moment than I would CJ Stroud. How impressed are you with what he's shown so far this season? And is he the guy that you kind of had the highest expectation for coming out of the draft?
I don't know that I had any, huge expectation for any one of these guys over the other, but I kind of agree with you that I kind of would have assumed that Bryce Young would have had the better supporting cast. And a lot of that goes to the fact that how many injuries the Texans kind of had from day one on the offensive line. But Bryce Young is the one that really has not been protected well at all this season, and really so many no names kind of in that receiving core that Bryce Young is putting all his numbers up with. I mean, yesterday I think was the first time in Texans franchise history that they had 300-yard receivers in the same game. And add to that the fact that the Buccaneers knew that they weren't going to be able to kick because Fairbairn was hurt. Damian Pierce didn't play yesterday. They really had no running game either. So the Bucs knew the ball was going to be in the air, but they still couldn't stop it. So really, I mean, he's been impressive all season, but certainly yesterday obviously was the high point so far, and you got to give him all the credit in the world for doing it, including the fact that there's still a lot of room to improve the players around him.
Nate, I'm curious about the Texans because obviously CJ Stroud gets a lot of the credit, and rightfully so, but that was largely viewed as a dysfunctional organization prior to this year, and maybe still this year. But how much credit does DeMeco Ryans as a first-year head coach deserve for all of a sudden making that team at the very least look competent?
Yeah, I think he's on the very short list for Coach of the Year honors, and we'll kind of see if the Texans are able to kind of crack into that playoff field before this is all said and done. But we knew DeMeco Ryans was an excellent defensive coordinator. We obviously saw the Bucs have a big day offensively against them yesterday, but they've made a lot of strides on defense, and again they still have a lot of work to do to upgrade on that side of the ball. Obviously Will Anderson's going to be the centerpiece there, but I mean I think the real thing, particularly when you hear from 49ers players, is just how much they respect DeMeco Ryans. And I think the thing that gets lost when we talk about offensive coaches and how important it is to get a good play caller in there sometimes when you make a coaching change, yada yada, it's just the value of leadership and how important that setting that tone and galvanizing guys and setting a direction is, particularly for a club like the Texans. And DeMeco Ryans plays there, so obviously he had a good feel for kind of what that organization was and where it needed to go. And now we're seeing the results.
Nate, whether it's a team that is, atop their division or at the bottom of their division, give me one team now that we're halfway through the season that has, exceeded your expectations on who they were coming into the season, and one team that just hasn't lived up to the expectation, or at least the bar that was set for them because of how they finished last year.
Well, I think the Colts are a team I feel like have really exceeded what I expected. I mean, they're not sure they're going to be a playoff team, but they've been extremely competitive both with Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew. So I mean, also give Shane Steichen is probably more of that guy, not as experienced, certainly from a head coaching perspective, but great play caller. We've seen a little bit of the Eagles regressing offensively to a point without him, and the Colts really taking a big step forward after all the years of musical chairs, quarterbacks over there. So I think maybe I'd look at them as one that's overachieved quite a bit in terms of the underachieving. I mean, I guess you look at Buffalo to some degree. I mean, they've had some big wins. They've had some concerning losses. I think they still have time to get right. Losing to the Bengals certainly is not an embarrassment. And I always kind of come back to the Chargers, but I mean, I kind of expect them to at this point. But I don't think there's any team that has, where the whole there's a bigger delta between what Cole should add up to, given all the players they have on that roster. But just how good they are individually, so many spots, they just can't win games. So they kind of perennially, to me, are the team that disappoints the most, I guess.
Nate, as I look at this Cincinnati Bengals team, they got a big win against Buffalo yesterday. They started the season off losing 3 of their first 4. Now they've won 4 in a row. Is it just as simple as Joe Burrow got healthy and looks like himself again, or is there something else going on with that turnaround from that rough start for Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And you kind of saw that last week at San Francisco. And not only is he moving around the pocket better, but I mean, he's also comfortable leaving the pocket and picking up first downs, with his legs. So I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I think they're also a team that they've kind of, for whatever reason, tended to start slow. I mean, they started 0-2 a year ago. I think they're the only team since the playoffs expanded 14 teams that started 0-2 and made it to the playoffs. And now they're trying to overcome that hurdle 2 years in a row. And I think another guy you got to look at in conjunction with Burrow is, T. Higgins had a big game last night. I think it was 8 catches and 110 yards. But he missed a game earlier this year with a rib injury. And clearly wasn't quite himself when he came back. But he looks like he's getting back to the level of kind of being a 1A receiver to chase. And definitely a guy that wants to have a big year because he's going into free agency. So I think definitely that they're a team that things are starting to kind of fall into place for them, and we're seeing the results.
Nate, seemed like the perfect time for the bye week to hit San Francisco after losing 3 in a row. They got off to such a quick start, such a booming start, but then it's kind of trickled off. Some problems being attributed to Brock Purdy, some and other facets of that team and of the way that they play. Do you see the 49ers as somebody that is going to feel rejuvenated after a bye week coming off of 3 losses?
I mean, for me, the 49ers dominated the bye week. I mean, Trent Williams should be feeling better. Deebo Samuel should be feeling better. Chase Young is joining, their defensive line, and then the Seahawks get blown out and drop back into a first-place tie with the 49ers. So I'm not sure their week off could have gone a whole lot better. And kind of is. I mean, Brock Purdy has done a great job kind of navigating what he's supposed to do within the framework of that offense and even outside of it. But when you don't have Trent Williams blocking for you, when you don't have Deebo Samuel, it's such a big part of that offense kind of available. And not for nothing too. I mean, they should have won the game in Cleveland if their rookie kicker could hit a 41-yard field goal there. I don't know if I'm going to end up regretting this, but I'm pretty much kind of writing off most of this 3-game losing streak as a bad spot in the season, some bad breaks, some bad luck. And certainly some injuries, and I think that they'll probably come back very strong.
Nate, Andrew and I have both been wondering about the move that the Bears made to trade for Montez Sweat. Obviously, I'm
the only one losing sleep over it.
Yeah, they obviously signed him to an extension as well. Just for a team that obviously has a lot of issues and is struggling in a lot of places, I guess how much does that move make sense in terms of how much does it actually move the needle in terms of actual wins?
Well, I mean, obviously did not move the needle very much yesterday.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that he's a player that's going to be one you can build a defense around. I mean, obviously he was part of a very deep defensive line there in Washington. I mean, I think he's a good kind of cornerstone guy to have, but I'm not sure he's necessarily the guy that other teams are going to game plan around. And it takes you back to the Chase Claypool deal where, you're not just giving up a 2nd-round pick. You're giving up probably a top 40 pick here. Could you have just gone out and thrown some money at Montez Sweat in the offseason and got him anyway, as opposed to bringing him into a 2-6 team when they got him? Also could have maybe gone after Chase Young at that point, or Josh Allen, or Daniil Hunter, or whatever. But they went this route of Montez Sweat. I mean, obviously it was important for them to get him into the building. We'll see what kind of impact it ultimately has. I mean, the Bears have had 30 sacks total now since the start of 2022, and are going to be last in the league for the 2nd straight year. So I get the need, I just kind of question if this was the time to do it, particularly given what you're probably probably giving up in order to get him, and particularly too when you could have gotten Chase Young for the third rounder. Why not do it that way?
Nate Davis, USA Today. We appreciate your time, Nate. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, thanks, Nate. Hey, quickly, are you shaving off your eyebrows if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan?
No, I'm good.
You're not Josh Dobbins?
Listen,
all the way to the end now?
Maybe Josh Dobbs is actually good. Who knows? That's all for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.